Well, greetings and salutations, everybody. Welcome to the best damn movie show on the planet Earth, the John Campea Show, coming from right here on my YouTube channel. I am, of course, your host, John Campea, and it is an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to accidentally put Aaron up on the screen instead of myself. And yeah, so we're already off to a great day. Then I just switched to the wrong camera again. We're off to a fabulous start. It's been a few days since the John Campea Show has been here and has been on, and clearly I'm already dropping the ball. Anyway, guys, surprise, surprise, ladies and gentlemen, Aaron Cummings is here, but there's no Joey Bishop. Aaron, how you doing?
You know what? I woke up this morning and I went to turn the lights on, and she rolled over and gave me the stink eye like you would not believe. Like, bitch, turn that light off. And she was not having it. She's a little ornery, sometimes like her mother. However, I will say, when I went downstairs, my avocado tree had a little new leaf in it, and that I found was very inspiring. Do you know that I have two plants?
I have no idea you had two plants.
They're the only two plants that I've ever been able to keep alive. One is Ava the avocado tree, named after Ava DuVernay, and the other one is Patty the plant, named after Patty Jenkins, two directors that I would love to work with. So when I saw that Ava had a new leaf, it inspired me. You know, last week I recommended Big, which I had just rewatched, and this week I was like, you know, I'm really into documentaries, and Ava DuVernay's documentary, The 13th, is a wonderful, wonderful documentary that if you haven't seen it, I highly recommend it. That's my recommendation for today. Ava DuVernay, who I named my avocado tree after. Thank you for sprouting a new leaf, and thank you for your incredible documentary, The 13th. I highly recommend it.
I'll be honest with you. Not only is the two plants thing, I'm quite frankly surprised that that Tom and Joey Bishop are alive.
I am too.
Living under your care.
100%. Oh, Leslie Ann Brandt, and I was texting with her the other night, and I was like on another level, and she said, just please promise me that when you wake up tomorrow morning, Tom will still be alive. I was like, I make no promises.
Right. Hey, listen, guys, we do have a lot of stuff to talk about that has gathered up over the world of movie news. We got Batwoman is not just going to change Ruby Rose. They're also going to change the character that plays Batwoman. AMC in significant trouble. Ryan Gosling is going to play Wolfman. J.K. Simmons has a multi-film deal to appear in Spider-Man films. Michael Jai White saying he wants to be Green Lantern. Lucifer star Tom Ellis signs up to come back again, and all that good stuff. But before we get to any of that stuff, you know, this is the part that I just never know. I've been dreading doing this ever since, you know, we were going to start the show. And like literally up to about 30 seconds before we started the show, I honestly didn't know whether to address this at the beginning of the show, address it at the end of the show, and just finally came to the conclusion that there's no right answer to this. So let me address this right off the top, and we'll get into the fun, distracting stuff about talking about movies in the world of film and all that kind of stuff. Many of you notice that Aaron Cummings is here today and not Robert Meyer Burnett. Many of you, if not most of you, are unfortunately aware of the things that kind of went down last night. For those of you who don't know, last night, Robert Meyer Burnett, who is just a fantastic individual, and who deeply cares about everything that's been going on in the country and in our world. Very vocal, you guys know, very vocal about the social inequality in our culture and the things that are going on in the world today. Very, very anti-violent is Robert Meyer Burnett. You all know this. Robert yesterday was very shaken and moved by the events of a 77-year-old black former police officer being shot dead in the street. And that really profoundly impacted Rob. And as happens to a lot of us, being that impacted, being angry, being enraged, he jumped on Twitter, which is something we all do, hopped on Twitter and expressed that anger and rage in really the wrong way. And in ways that basically was saying people should arm themselves and shoot to kill. And shoot to kill, he repeated over and over again. Now, as somebody who knows Robert Meyer Burnett, I was shocked to read that because I know that's not him. I know that's not how he thinks. I know that's not what he feels. People who don't know him wouldn't know that just reading his tweets. I know him, and I know that wasn't representative of what he thought or felt. He then got into some exchanges with other individuals online that, again, fueled by his anger, and then anger turns into defiance, which all of us often do. When we're angry, we often get defiant, and it just spiraled and got way out of control from there. I spoke to Robert. In my first conversation with Robert, he was very upset, but also still very angry. And he couldn't understand, because this horrible injustice had happened. This 77-year-old man was shot dead in the streets. And to him, he felt there was this horrible injustice that had happened. He couldn't understand why anybody would have a problem with what he tweeted. Now, of course, in the social climate that we currently live in this week, any call to arms and an encouragement to shoot to kill is ill-advised at best, completely irresponsible at worst. We live in a society right now where, a couple of weeks ago, lest we forget, actually more than a couple weeks ago, a young black man was jogging through a neighborhood when Jethro and Eli Buttfuck decided, there's a black kid running through our neighborhood. He must be here to steal our stuff. And so, suspecting he must be there to do crime, they followed him in a truck and shot him and killed him. They had all this on video. The police had that video for weeks and never arrested the individuals until the video got leaked to the public, and then they were suddenly arrested. In any sort of call to violence is only inviting repeats of that situation. That guy looks shady. Better play it safe and shoot him. And if you don't think that's exactly where calls to violence and things like that will lead, then you haven't been paying attention to what's going on in our society and in our culture. So yes, I agree with everybody who was very upset with what Rob wrote, that what he wrote was irresponsible. It was inflammatory. It ran the risk of inciting violence. Even though I knew that that's exactly not how Robert feels. That is not what Robert thinks. And in the midst of his anger, I don't even think he realized how what he wrote came across. But in telling you that I strongly disagreed with what Robert wrote, I can tell you somebody who disagreed with what Robert wrote even more than I did. And that is Robert himself. Robert and I spoke again later in the evening. And I'll try to wrap this up quick so we can get on to talking about movies and fun stuff. And I hate being in the position that we even have to address this. However, I spoke to Robert again later in the evening. Robert and I talked several times last night. Only this time when I spoke to him, he had a chance to take a breath, reread all the things that he had written, how he responded to people, and he felt horrible. I mean, of course he felt outraged against something tremendously unjust that had happened, and the idea of self-protection, all that was all part of it, and that's really the way Robert's mind is wired. But it came across the wrong way. Now, I want to read to you, I put out an official statement on Twitter last night regarding Rob, and I want to read that to you instead of trying to remember how it reads. So I'm just going to read you this, and then we're going to move on. But I wrote this last night. Knowing Robert Meyer Burnett personally, seeing as he is somebody who, number one, hates violence, number two, has been extremely concerned and very vocal about the systemic racism in our country, and three, is not pro-gun in the least, I was very surprised to read his tweets earlier this evening and the exchange that he had with some people. It is simply not the Robert Meyer Burnett that I know. When I first spoke with him earlier, he was still upset about the murder of a 77-year-old man. He just couldn't comprehend how anybody would be upset with his comments. We spoke once he calmed down and fully realized why people were upset, and he deeply regretted what he wrote. I encourage you all to go and see the apology video that Robert Meyer Burnett has done, which he did. He posted a very sincere apology video, which I encourage people to see. The best people do or say stupid things sometimes. We all do, me included. What Rob tweeted was extremely irresponsible, especially given our climate. He knows that and regrets it. Rob has suggested to me taking some time away from the John Campea Show for now, and I have agreed. Many of us are living with the stresses of a prolonged quarantine, radical social injustices in our society, and high tension in our communities. And even though none of that excuses our actions or behaviors, I hope we can all cut each other a little bit of slack when we struggle with how exactly to deal with properly expressing that stress or frustration, even when, shockingly, out of character. Thank you, and please stay safe. That was my comments on that. Now, look, I'm going to tell you right now, Robert Meyer Burnett will be back on this show. Make no mistake, Robert Meyer Burnett will be back. As a matter of fact, I think Robert and I may even be actually having lunch today, a little bit later.
I want to go to lunch.
You're not invited. No girls. No girls.
I don't get invited to the clubhouse.
No invited to the clubhouse. But I think this is one of those situations where everybody, especially Robin, he knows this better than anybody, needs to take a breath. I think everybody who is very supportive of Rob, myself included, needs to understand why people were upset with what he wrote. Again, the types of things he wrote, and it's not how he meant to come across, but the types of things he wrote, taken out of context, can encourage a lot more violence and mentally enable Jethro and Eli Buttfuck, who decide they see a black guy on their street. That's suspicious to them. He must be here to cause trouble. Let's go shoot him. And again, that's not a slippery slope. It happened. It happens. And so you've got to understand why when some people who don't know Robert read those types of words and become very insulted, very offended, and are really concerned with what he wrote. I think you have to take that and understand. Now, a lot of us know Robert, and we know that is completely not Robert's mindset. We know that because we know Robert. But you got to understand, to a lot of people who wouldn't, and they just read that, that seems really irresponsible. So as Robert and I spoke last night, he brought up, he said, maybe I should just take a bit away, and I agreed with him. But Robert will be back, and I know he feels terrible about how he expressed himself. It's one of the most enraging things in the world is when you hear somebody else misrepresenting you. The only thing that's worse is when you realize you misrepresented yourself. And it is my belief that fueled by a lot of anger, disappointment, rage, disillusionment about something horrible that happened last night, I think Robert, and he would agree, misrepresented himself. And I know he feels horrible about it. So that's my commentary on that right now. Again, I'm probably going to have lunch with Rob later. If you would like to extend any thoughts to him, you can email that to me, and I'll just take some emails with me to go when I go meet with Robert. So I wanted to get that elephant out of the room. Damn it. Maybe I should have just addressed it at the end of the show. Like maybe I was thinking instead of now, but I think we just kind of had to get the elephant out of the room. I agree.
And you know what? I'm going to just share a little bit about what you shared. Before the show, John was very conflicted. Do I do this at the beginning of the show or the after the show? And it is an unfortunate position for you to be in. Obviously, you don't have any control over what people write on Twitter. And also what we're seeing a lot of is the culmination of not just one moment in time, but people have been quarantined. We are at the worst economic, crisis that we've faced in since the Great Depression. There's a lot of frustration that's building up, and it's boiling over. And what I said last night, I didn't even know any of this was going on. I was, blissfully unaware of Twitter. It's really nice to not be on Twitter 24 hours a day until I clicked in and someone said, hey, you might want to check on Rob. I think he's having a bad night. And then I saw everything was happening, and I sent him a message. And ultimately, if you were upset and offended by what Rob said, that is understandable. If you are saying this is no big deal, that's your perspective as well. Everyone has a right to their response when something is upsetting to them. What I encourage everyone to do, not just with what happened with Rob, but just in general, is let's all just stop and take a breath for a minute, recharge, focus ourselves on the things that we are able to do, the fights that we are able to engage in, and move forward in a productive way so that we can make the changes that are necessary to get to a better place, not just for ourselves, but for the next generation. And so I am happy to be here to step in Rob's place. And for all of you that are saying, get that bitch off of there and bring back Rob, don't worry.
That's normally me.
I will be gone very soon. And you don't have to see me anymore. I'll be back tomorrow because that's my normal day. Because I know that's No Pants Thursdays.
Jeez, it is Thursdays. That's right. I keep forgetting I haven't done the show in a few days.
Yeah.
But listen, guys. With that all said, let's allow ourselves a moment of reprieve from all the awfulness going on between all that stuff and viruses and whatever. And let's dive in and let's talk about some movie stuff, shall we? We're going to start off all this movie stuff by talking about a couple things right off the top. And the first thing that we're going to talk about off the top is this. Now, some of you will remember there's this show on CW called Batwoman. A show when they cast Ruby Rose, I thought, okay, I kind of like Ruby Rose. I'll see this. Let's see how this goes. But the show didn't work for me, so I just ditched on it after about 3 episodes. No big deal. Of course, you guys know recently that Ruby Rose and the showrunners of Batwoman mutually agreed to part ways. I don't think Ruby Rose was happy on that show, and there was reports that people on the show weren't really happy with her, so they decided to part ways. But here's where it gets kind of interesting again. Apparently, CW, according to reports right now, is not only looking at replacing Ruby Rose, but they're apparently looking at replacing her character, Kane, as Batwoman. Apparently they're now looking at not just, hey, look, we're not just going to replace Ruby Rose, we're just going to say a whole new character in the show is going to take over the Batwoman mantle, which I thought was interesting. Interesting to say the least. Aaron, I don't really understand this mentality. Like, to me, when an actor gets replaced in a show or in a film series, there is a momentary jar, right? Like, oh, that's not Chamberlain playing Dumbledore.
Right.
That's
like on Fresh Prince of Bel-Air when Aunt Viv got replaced.
When Aunt Viv got replaced. That's not Aunt Viv.
Yeah.
That's not Dumbledore. That's not Clarice. When that there's a momentary lapse like that, but then literally within about 2 or 3 minutes, our brains, because we are advanced creatures, our brains adjust and we wrap our heads around, oh yeah, there's a new character. It's a new character here. So I got to tell you, I don't understand this move at all. I don't understand why they wouldn't just say, okay, Ruby Rose isn't here. We're going to get a new actress. There'll be about 2 minutes of awkwardness as the audience adjusts to this new person in the role, but then there they go. Now, the other thing that this raises a possibility of is, what if this isn't just, Ruby Rose wanted to go? What if this is actually a matter of the showrunners maybe felt the show wasn't working? I'm speculating here. Let's be clear.
That's a good point.
Maybe they felt like the show's not working. Maybe they weren't happy with the way they wrote the Kate character. Maybe part of Ruby Rose leaving was the whole idea that maybe they wanted to change. I mean, I don't know. And by the way, I'm not saying this can't work, Aaron. I'm not saying this cannot work and that this is a disaster. It can work. I just think it's a very odd decision. I thought they should have just replaced her as an actress and then move forward. The show has a fan base. Anyway, Aaron, as somebody who works in the industry yourself, what do you think about this possible? By the way, it's not been confirmed by CW this is the case, but all the reports are saying they're looking for a new character who will be the new Batwoman. But if they are doing this, what do you think about the decision to, instead of just replacing the actress, they're actually replacing the entire character? How do you see it?
I think it's completely absurd. It doesn't even make any sense. I can not just Aunt Viv on Fresh Prince, but also on the show that I was on, Spartacus. When Andy Whitfield unfortunately was unable to move forward with the show, they didn't go, okay, well, we're just going to create a whole new character that's going to create this revolt, and we're going to bring him in. No, they said, okay, well, this show still has a life, and we're going to recast Andy Whitfield's character with Liam McIntyre, who had the unfortunate position of having to step in Andy's shoes, which he did beautifully. But then also even Leslie Ann Brandt's character of Navia was also replaced with a different actress.
That's right.
And so that's two actors that were replaced. What's weird about it also is it's not like Kate Kane is this character that was just created for the world of the CW. Like, there is quote canon, and we were talking briefly off camera about it, and I'd love to hear more about how much people are tied to that. But when I see that there's a character that just doesn't come back, then I go, but what happened to Kate? well, what happened to Kate? Is Kate still alive somewhere? Is she going to come back in a different season? I think that it creates like a black hole of a character instead of just saying, hey, we're replacing this actress. Kate Kane is now played by this person. It just creates a weird black hole of like Kate Kane just disappeared. And then why does this new character take on the mantle of Batwoman? Like it's too messy. And I think that there's a much cleaner way that they could have handled it by just replacing the actress and moving on, like you said. But in the world of comic books, I hear you and Rob very eloquently talking about canon a lot. How does that fit into the CW world? Because I know that's separate from the films.
And it's separate from the comics, too. I mean, that's the thing. It's really interesting. When you get into canon, it's so weird. I mean, I've told this story before, but it reminds me of when they were taking Superman Returns to Comic-Con. And somebody in the audience asked the director, why did you decide to change Superman's costume from the comic? To which the director said, which costume are you talking about? There have been 23 different at the time, there had been 23 different iterations of the Superman costume in the comic book. Some big differences, some very tiny differences, but 23 different iterations. The way that I think applies today is like we're talking about canon in the comics. The comics, especially in the DC universe and things like that, the comics have so constantly rewritten their own histories and had different timelines, whether it's New 52 or whatever, that it almost becomes a moot point to talk about canon from the comics. Then you start talking about CW. Do they have a canon of their own that they stay faithful to? It's still such a new thing. Right. So they really do have an open playground where they can do anything. I don't think the problem with replacing the Kate character is a problem of canon. I just think it's a problem of continuity. Yeah. With the show. And so, I don't know, maybe we'll
How do you explain that all of a sudden a new character is Batwoman? I mean, but then again, every time we have a new Batman movie, we have a new well, no, because he's still Bruce Wayne. He's that's what it would be like. It would be like if the next Batman film was like, okay, so we still have Batman, but his name is actually Jim Smith. So, and he's not a billionaire. He actually lives in Oregon on a farm. Like, it would just make no fucking sense.
It would upset and disappoint the fan base. So, I mean, I don't know. But then again, for all I know, the show's going to start season 1, episode 1, first scene. Wow, I just got this email from Kate, gone to get pizza in Russia, and she just never comes back.
By the way, can you hold on to my bat suit for me?
Yeah, can you and don't let anybody sneak into the I don't know.
Right.
Guys, question is, what do you think about that move? I mean, it's hard to judge when we haven't seen what they're going to do. It just seems like an odd choice to me, that's all. Maybe you guys think it's a great idea. Jump down to the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right. With that down, let's do one more thing off the top. And that's this. One of the biggest casualties in our little movie world as a result of the pandemic that's been going on, of course, is the movie theaters. They've been facing a very, very tough battle. And of course, none more so than the largest movie theater chain in the world, AMC Theaters. Well, apparently, AMC Theaters, there's been a lot of speculation about, can they survive what's going on? Are they going to be able to come back and all that kind of stuff? Well, right now, AMC Theaters themselves are saying, this is a statement that came from AMC Theaters, that AMC Theaters has substantial doubt that it can remain in business. This is the company itself saying that. AMC themselves are saying that they have substantial doubt that they are going to be able to stay in business in the midst of everything going on. Now, that comes from a lot of different things, but this is a key section of their statement. This is a key section of their statement. Let me see if I can get to this here. All right. They said this. We believe, they said, we have the cash resources to reopen our theaters and resume our operations this summer, the company writes. Our liquidity needs thereafter will depend, among other things, on the timing of a full resumption of operations, the timing of the movie releases, and our ability to generate revenues. We cannot assure you that our assumptions used to estimate our liquidity requirements will be correct because we have never previously experienced a complete cessation of our operations, and as a consequence, our ability to be predictive is uncertain. Now, of course, just recently, AMC got a new round of financing that made it look like they were going to be able to reopen the doors. And even now they're saying, yeah, we're going to be able to reopen our doors. I was telling you just the other day that it looks like, Regal announced that they're going to be open by July. I told you that I had heard from a number of people in the theaters that both Cinemark and AMC will both be as well. Cinemark, by the way, is now saying not only are they going to be open by July, they're saying they're going to start reopening in June. June 19th. 2 weeks.
Wow.
Now it's going to be in stages and in processes, but Cinemark themselves are saying they're going to start to roll that out. So it does look like AMC is going to be able to reopen their doors. The problem becomes, how long are they going to be able to keep their doors open? Now, normally what we see in situations like this are companies going, nothing's wrong, everything's fine, while their building is on fire behind them, right? Nothing to see here, everything's good. AMC themselves are coming out now and saying, we don't know that we're going to be able to last. We don't know that we're going to be able to last. Now, that does bring up a possibility. If this is them just trying to stir some people into getting additional funding, if this is like a real warning shot saying, hey, everybody who's got some financial interest in AMC, you should probably look at ponying up more money or getting into your Rolodex. Remember Rolodexes? I haven't referenced Rolodexes since I worked in law.
I used to love my Rolodex.
You better get into your Rolodexes and start calling your other rich friends, or we're going to be going under. So maybe there's a little bit of that in play. But again, it just reemphasizes that this is not some report saying AMC's in trouble. This is the first time, Aaron, that we're seeing AMC themselves saying, we have substantial doubts that we're going to be able to last. They're going to open the doors, but can they keep things going? Aaron, you hear this sort of thing. How does that hit you?
I have two conflicting ideas going on in my head about it. The first idea is, it's so different from what the other theater chains are saying, where they're very positive. They're like, we're opening up right away. We're going to take all these steps to make everyone feel safe and feel protected, and we're going to be good and everything's going to be great. Don't worry. Come on back. The water feels great. And then AMC is like, actually, if you don't come back to us, we might die. Like, that's kind of like, maybe that's a strategy of setting themselves apart by saying, hey, if AMC is your theater of choice, then now is the time that you need to help us stay alive. Kind of like that thing of, oh my God, guys, the show might get canceled, so send a bunch of peanuts to Washington or whatever, those like drives that people do. So that might be their rallying call. But then the other thing that popped into my mind is the bumper sticker phrase, evolve or die. Right. Just this week, there were a couple books that I needed to pick up, and I am trying to not shop at Amazon. I'm trying to support local stores as much as I can. And so I found this bookstore called Isawan Books. It's one of the Isawan bookstore. It's in Los Angeles, and it's somehow survived through Amazon. And I went there. It's amazing, small business, Black-owned business with incredible customer service. And there's been lots of articles written about how they survived through Amazon when so many other bookstores around the country have died. And, I won't get into the reasons why they were able to survive. You can look that up on your own. But we are in a time where, yes, we're seeing businesses shutting down left and right all over the country. We are seeing entire industries that are really having to evolve and change. We saw that when reality television shows came up, and then all of a sudden scripted programming had to up their game to be able to maintain an audience. So at this point, companies that are saying, oh, well, I guess we're just going to have to go under, I look at that and go, well, you can be the old couple that dies peacefully in their bed as the Titanic sinks, or you can hold on to a raft and blow a whistle and figure out a way to survive. Businesses right now are not going to be able to go back to the way things were. The way things were is over. We have a new future ahead of us. And if we as individuals and if companies do not look at, okay, these are the given circumstances, what do I need to do to change? Then sorry, AMC, you're going to have to figure it out.
Yeah, and unfortunately, they put themselves in a spot that was going to work out great for them. They spent all this money. They were poised. They were positioned for great success. They were starting to roll in the money. and at the height of their debt to put themselves in that position, they got shut down. And now that doing all these smart things, how much does that suck? Do all the smart things, but that doing all the smart things is what ends up eventually killing you. Guys, question is, what do you think about that? Do you think AMC is going to be able to recover long term? They're going to get the doors open, but once they do, are they going to be able to keep them open? Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down and out of the way, let's move on to our main topics today. And how do we pick our main topics here in the John Campea Show? Well, it's really rather simple. You see, you guys come up with them by going anytime over to www.thejohncampeashow.com/contact. Once you guys get there, you're going to see a form. Fill it out with your topic or question, hit submit, and then maybe, just maybe, you might see your topic or question featured as a main topic here on the John Campea Show. With that down, let's get on to main topic number 1. And our first main topic today gets submitted to us by Ryzen, who writes, "Hey John, I just saw that Deadline reported that Lucifer star Tom Ellis has closed a deal for a 6th season of Lucifer. With the main star and the showrunners having deals to do a 6th season, do you think they will create one after saying season 5 would be the final episode? And do you think this will affect season 5? All right, thanks a lot for saying that in, man. And yes, thank frickin' goodness for those of us who are fans of Lucifer, Tom Ellis has finally signed a deal. Now, this goes back to, for those of you who don't follow Lucifer, and you really should, because following Lucifer is great. I know that sounds weird, but following Lucifer is great, the TV show. It's absolutely fantastic. I love it. Now, for those of you who might remember, the show was on Fox. It then got canceled and was saved by Netflix. Netflix was going to do a season 4 and a season 5, and they said season 5 was going to be it. That was done. Season 5 is finished. And then we started hearing whispers that the showrunners, some other cast, had signed on to do an additional season. This is what comes to us from, this came to us from Deadline, who wrote, Netflix, pardon me, I got something in my mouth, throat. Hold a second. It's like a popcorn kernel.
With lots and lots of butter.
I have this protein bar in the morning that's got like peanuts in it. I think a little bit of peanut shell.
Oh
my God.
Do you want me to talk about Lucifer?
Oh God, welcome back to the show, everybody. Okay, I'm going to struggle through this. Earlier, my eyes start to water. Netflix earlier this year started talks with series producer Warner Brothers TV about another installment of the comic book drama beyond the upcoming 5th season, which had been billed as the final installment. Executive producers, I never know how to pronounce their names, Edie Motorovich and Joe Henderson, who have been steering the show, quickly closed new deals for another season. It took lengthy, difficult negotiations with Tom Ellis, who is the lead character, plays Lucifer, but he also recently signed on to return. The rest of the cast are also on board, sources said. With all key pieces in place, Netflix is expected to proceed with the pickup. So I got all excited. When they announced there was going to be a new Lucifer season. I got so excited that I even did a video about it. I was talking about Lucifer's coming back. It's all set. The showrunner signed the deal. They're coming back. And then, there's a catch. Tom Ellis hasn't signed back up yet. And of course, without Tom Ellis, who is Lucifer, there is no Lucifer. That had to happen. And I got to tell you, I was starting to doubt it was going to happen. I started wondering, because, Aaron, you had told me before about, hey, it's complicated with actors' schedules. They think a show's going to end, so they sign up for other things. And I'm just sitting here thinking, oh my God, what if Tom Ellis already made other commitments and now he's just not going to come back because they can't do it? Whatever. But now it's done. We're going to get a Lucifer season 6 after this upcoming Lucifer season 5. And one of the many reasons I'm looking forward to Lucifer season 5 is because Aaron Cummings is going to be appearing in Lucifer season 5, which I'm very excited about.
Thank you.
But anyway, having a show continue means the shows keep going, people keep working. I mean, it's all good in general, but
wonderful.
Your take on this, that this finally got done and it looks like they're going to move forward with season 6.
Well, I mean, in full disclosure, I was a little surprised to see that was one of the questions. As you know, and as some people know who follow me on social media, Leslie Ann Brandt, who plays Maze, is one of my best friends. In fact, Tom actually last night was perfecting how to make vegan ravioli because we're bringing her dinner tonight. So and it's actually quite good. Anyway, so I've sort of been hearing the conversations, and I was a little surprised by this because I was like, that's kind of been known. But that's the thing. I forget that sometimes things are happening in real time, and then they get announced much later. Like,
right.
There's a show that I am involved with that we are currently waiting to find out where it goes. And unbeknownst to me, because it hasn't been announced yet, there's someone really exciting that is attached to it. And that is all I will say. But yeah, season 6 has definitely been something. I think that, and also we have to keep in mind that closing the deal is the official language. And technically anything could happen until the paperwork is signed and it's all legal. But usually once an actor and their reps and then the producers say, yeah, we want to make this happen, and here's how much we're going to pay. A lot of times it really is the financial thing. This is where it's going to shoot. Because if they said, oh, we're going to take it back to Vancouver, that would be a huge problem for a lot of actors who now live in Los Angeles. Here's where it's going to shoot, and here's how much we're going to pay you. Great. We agree on that. Okay. And then you start working on the little details. And those little details can be something from the size of someone's trailer to back end points to like the minutia of a contract. But once the main bulk of it, where is it going to shoot and how much money am I going to be paid? Once those things are locked into place, really the actor is like, okay, cool, I'm doing the show. And then the lawyers all bicker over work out the details. So I'm glad that it's finally announced. I didn't know that it wasn't totally announced. And for anybody who's like, when are we going to get season 5? Because I know that Leslie Ann has been fielding a lot of those questions, and just please stop asking her, because now is not the time. There's a lot more.
Because I keep hearing it's going to launch in June. I keep hearing it's going to launch this month.
Well, so season 5 was actually broken into two parts.
Right.
And so the first part of season 5, which is 8 episodes, that's in the can. It's ready, it's shot, it's ready to go. The second part, because of COVID, production had to shut down. I believe they still have like 2 episodes maybe that they have to shoot.
Yeah, I read a report that said they figure they have about 5 shooting days left that they still have to do to wrap up
but that's for the second part of it. So the first part, those first 8 episodes will be released. I don't personally know the date, and I know that people have been asking Leslie Ann, and she's like, I'm not thinking about that right now. So, but if you know it's June, then I trust you.
I know nothing.
It's coming. It is coming. So you will not only have season 5A of Lucifer, which is when my episode is, and then you also later get to look forward to season 5B of Lucifer.
And it's going to be like an 18 season episode or a 6. It's going to be more than a regular Netflix.
It's a 16 episodes, so 8 and 8.
Which is much more than what Netflix normally does. So
yes.
I'm excited about that.
Yeah, we're all excited. And you know what? It's more people working, more cast, more crew, more job opportunities. And right now, as many opportunities as people can have to find employment is wonderful. I applaud all of it.
All right, guys, question for you is, are you anywhere near as happy as me that Lucifer looks like it's going to get its season 6 now that all the final hurdles have been crossed? I'm super stoked. Maybe you don't even watch the show. Whatever. If you don't, you totally should. Jump down to the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right. With that down, let's move on to main topic number 2. And our second main topic today gets submitted to us by Sam Simpson, who writes, "Hey, John, I was a huge fan of this year's The Invisible Man. Me too, man. I thought that movie was great. And I was wondering if you had heard about the new Wolfman movie that Ryan Gosling pitched to Universal that would be in the same vein as the movie Nightcrawler. If so, what do you think of this news, and who would you like to see direct? Thanks, and keep up the good work." All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And yes, a couple of days ago, it got announced that Ryan Gosling not just was going to be in a Wolfman thing, but he actually is the one who pitched the story. He pitched the idea of doing the movie. This comes to us from the folks over at Deadline who wrote, "According to Variety, Gosling pitched the new take on the hairy supernatural troublemaker, which has been turned into a script by Lauren Schuker Blum. And if you're wondering, any relation to Jason Blum? As a matter of fact, yes, it's his wife. By Lauren Schuker Blum and Rebecca Angelo. Details are scarce, but it's described as a present-day story along the lines of Nightcrawler with a wolfy twist. The next step for the studio on the development road is finding a director, and while there are no frontrunners yet, Universal has been busy meeting filmmakers, and that Thoroughbreds and Bad Education's, I like both those movies, particularly Bad Education, which I just watched not long ago, Corey Finley is among those in serious contention. All right. So, listen, the first thing that we got to address here is Ryan Gosling playing in a Wolfman movie. How does Ryan Gosling think of the idea of a Wolfman movie and go and pitch a Wolfman movie? That seems odd to me, but whatever. He must have a great idea. He must be really excited about it. The first thing you mentioned was the whole idea of Universal's, they did The Invisible Man. And they did a fabulous job on that movie. And they did that movie for $7 million. Pay attention, Marty Scorsese, wanting $200 million to make a period drama. They did The Invisible Man for $7 million is what they made that movie for. I'm going to guess they probably give it a little bit of a bump when it comes to something like Wolfman. That might need a little bit more. Now, a lot of people have been asking me, does this mean that we're going to see that Universal is now going to resurrect their idea of a shared monster universe? From everything I've been reading, and anything is possible, but from everything that I've been reading, the answer to that is no. Universal is kind of pulling the Warner Brothers thing about with the way they're handling DC. No more shared universe. We're just kind of focusing on individual films. That seems to be Universal's approach right now, and it's working real well. I mean, if Invisible Man is any indication, it's working tremendously well. So I think that's a step in the right direction. Ryan Gosling, of course, is a good Canadian kid, so I like that very much. And plus, I just think he's a tremendous actor as well, so that's wonderful too. So I got to tell you, I don't know how excited I am about this, Aaron, if it wasn't for the fact that I saw Invisible Man. If I just heard this without Invisible Man being a real thing, I just go, really? Wolfman? With Ryan Gosling, who I like, good Canadian kid, but really? But after having that Invisible Man movie in my life and knowing what a great job they did on that with low budget, tight story, thrill ride of the thing, if they can bring that now into Wolfman, I think it's exciting. Anyway, you hear about this. What are your thoughts?
When I hear the name Ryan Gosling, I'm in. And it's not because he is one of the most attractive human beings that lives on the planet, and has really
Canadian
great,
trait.
funny memes.
Just Canadian trait. Just
I mean, as all Canadian men are, and Canadian women. The first movie that I ever saw Ryan Gosling in was The Believer. And I had no idea who he was. I don't even know how it was on my radar. Like it was not when I was really interested in watching independent films at the time. It just somehow it got on my radar. I watched the film and I said, I have no idea who this kid is, but he is brilliant and he is going to be a massive star. And one of the things that I love about Ryan Gosling is whether it's Lars and the Real Girl, which is such a character piece.
So good. I love that movie.
Like such a character piece for a quote pretty boy like Ryan Gosling to do. To Crazy Sexy Love, where, he's playing real savvy.
Crazy Stupid Love.
Crazy Stupid Love.
Yes.
What did I say?
Crazy Sexy Love.
Yeah.
But it's very sexy.
Yeah. What I love about Ryan Gosling as an actor is that not only does he consistently give a beautiful and grounded and truthful performance, he also has really great taste in his projects. I've never seen a project that he's done where I've been like, Ryan Gosling is good, but the movie, I don't know. Like, I've always been like, wow, Ryan Gosling really nailed it, and what a great film,
Gangster
too.
Squad. That was terrible.
I didn't see that.
You're good.
Okay. So everybody, every model farts on a catwalk once in a while. I don't know where that just came from, but I'm really excited about this. The fact that he was the one who pitched it also gives me an added level of excitement because he's clearly invested in it. It's not something that he's doing for a paycheck. It's not something that he's being talked into. He's not just like jumping on the, superhero, supernatural bandwagon. It's something that clearly he has, inside of him that he's excited about. And I think that when there's a passion for it, that resonates, and you can really feel that when you watch the movie. So I'm pretty excited about this.
Question here is, guys, what do you think about it? Again, if it wasn't for Invisible Man, I would probably look at this and go, but because I saw him, I'm kind of stoked about this. I think this could be really fun. Question is, guys, what do you guys think about it? Jump on down to the comments section below and leave us your thoughts. All right. With that down, let's move on to main topic number 3. And our third main topic today gets submitted to us by The Last Airbender, who writes, "Hey, John, J.K. Simmons apparently has a multi-film deal to play J. Jonah Jameson." Yes, he does. This surprises me because, like you, I believed his appearance in Far From Home was a one-time thing. What are your thoughts? All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, man. And yes, of course, one of the biggest pops I've heard in movie theaters in a long time, especially when it comes to like end of movie, post credits, all that kind of stuff, was absolutely in Spider-Man Far From Home when J.K. Simmons popped up once again in the role of J. Jonah Jameson. Of course, he played J. Jonah in the Sam Raimi Sony Spider-Man movies back in the day with Tobey Maguire, and he was fantastic as he is in everything. And to see him pop up again, although I want his hair back. I want that same J. Jonah hair he had. But anyway, he pops up in that and it's great. Well, apparently the deal he signed was for multiple films. The problem is whenever audiences hear that somebody signed for multiple films, they think, well, that's a confirmation they're going to do more with him. And that's not necessarily the case. As J.K. Simmons pointed out himself, he said the following: "I don't know if we should use the word expect when somebody asked him if we should expect to see J. Jonah back in the next Spider-Man movie. I don't know if I would use the word expect. When we signed on for the first movie, we signed a contract to do 2 sequels as well, which is always a one-sided contract where you're committed to do it, but they're not necessarily committed to use your character in the ensuing movies. So it was great to have the opportunity to return as these things evolve to be one of the holdovers from the previous version." So Aaron, he brings up something that I've talked a lot about on the show before, which is, one of the great example is, oh my gosh, why am I forgetting the name of the actor? He played Rhodey in the first Iron Man. He's in Empire. He's the lead actor on Empire.
Terrence Howard.
Terrence Howard, thank you. A great example of this is Terrence Howard. Terrence Howard had a multi-film deal to play Rhodey. That just means he is obligated to come and be in the movie should the studio want him, but it does not obligate the studio to using you, even if your character is going to be there. And all of a sudden, Don Cheadle is there. And Don Cheadle's great too. I love both those guys. I think they're both tremendous. And Don Cheadle's done a great job. But that's a clear thing. So no, J.K. saying that he has signed a multi-film deal is not any sort of confirmation that he will be back. But there is hope. And here's why there's hope. Kevin Feige has infamously said, he had a 5-year plan. So if J. Jonah wasn't part of that plan, yes. But also at the time when Kevin Feige said that, they didn't know that they were going to be even able to make another Spider-Man movie. With all the drama going on between Sony and Marvel at the time. Of course, they've patched that up and they've got a new deal. But at the time, they didn't even know if they were going to have a new Spider-Man, which means there could have been a lot of wiggle room there for Kevin Feige leaving that space kind of blank and saying, okay, now we do get to do another Spider-Man movie. Okay. Man, people sure loved that when J.K. Simmons popped up on screen. The pop in theaters when he popped up on screen was insane. It was absolutely insane. So I'm going to say this. I think J.K. is right when he says, I don't know if we can say we should expect him back, but I'm going to go out on a limb. I think Kevin Feige, hearing how the audience responded to hearing it, J. Jonah is such an integral core part of the Spider-Man mythos. Maybe we shouldn't expect him to be back, I expect him to be back. I think we're going to see him back. I think he's going to, and maybe not a huge role, maybe like 5 minutes here and there, but I think he's going to be back. He's one of the best actors in the world. Why not? Anyway, Aaron, you see this story. Shed a little bit of light on that whole contractual situation as an actor yourself. And do you expect maybe we'll see him back as J. Jonah? What do you think?
So actor contracts are definitely not anything like NFL contracts. If you like, I have signed multiple 7-year deals, and I have never been on a television show for 7 years. You know, and you're absolutely right. A lot of what the studios do is they lock you in so that they have you at a certain rate. And so as an actor, you know, like when I work in television, before you even get the job, when you're testing to potentially get the job. I remember when I was testing for Astronaut Wives Club, it was like me and there were 4 other girls, and the business affairs person brings the contract over to each person, and you sign the big contracts, and you're looking at that number, and it's like, year 1, you'll get this much. Year 2, you'll get this much. And then it goes on. Year 7, you'll get this much. And you haven't even auditioned yet. You haven't even gotten the job. And you're like, oh my God, my whole life will change. I'll be out of debt forever. And then you go in and you totally screw up the audition. But you know, they have you locked in so that they don't, if the show becomes a massive success, you don't get to then turn around and go, well, my contract's up, so I'm going to walk unless you pay me X amount of dollars. And it's similar for films. I have a friend who I won't mention, but he was offered one of the lead roles in one of the X-Men films. And his agents at William Morris Endeavor said, oh, well, yeah, I don't know if you should do that because, you know, you're going to, they lock you in for 5 movies. You know, it was like a 5-movie deal. And their idea for his career was, no, we have other things for you to do. We don't want you to play this comic book character, this X-Men character, you know, for the next 5 things. And so he passed.
Wah, wah.
And it was a really bad idea because the guy that they replaced him with has had a really amazing career. My friend is doing fine. We're not going to shed any tears for him. But the idea is we lock you in so that if the audience responds to you favorably and we want to use you more, you can't then hold us over a barrel for a lot more money. That being said, if you do have a multi-picture deal with a studio and the audience doesn't respond to you, a lot of times what they'll do is they'll go, okay, well, we're not going to put you in the next Spider-Man movie, but we're going to find another project at our studio for you, which is a lot of times why you see these things happening. You know, you see actors that are not necessarily doing second and third installments of the character they signed an original contract for, right, but you do see them almost immediately in other films by that same studio. Is because the studio is honoring the contract of we have you for 3 films. They're just not going to be
altering it.
Just different, just not these films.
Right. That makes sense to me. The question here is, guys, what do you think about that whole thing? Are we surprised to hear they signed a multi-film deal? That is kind of standard operating procedure, especially for comic book movies. Do you think they'll go ahead and have them in there? I certainly hope that they do, whether it's a small role or big role or whatever. What do you guys think? Jump down to the comment section below and let me know your thoughts. All right, guys. With that down, let's go on to our 4th and final main topic today. And our 4th and final main topic today gets submitted to us by Terry Winstead, who writes, hey, John and crew. I just saw that Michael Jai White was discussing that fans have been asking him to play Green Lantern and that he'd be more, probably meant to say he'd be more than willing to do it. I know you're a fan of his. What would you think of him as Green Lantern, John Stewart? Thanks for being a safe place for us to all talk about other things than the stressful stuff in our world, even just for a few hours. Love to all. All right, thanks a lot for sending that in, Terry. And yeah, to say I'm a big Michael Jai White fan is a little bit of an understatement. I think the dude is awesome. And I was already a fan of Michael Jai White. And you might have heard me mention this film before. If you have not seen Michael Jai White's film, Black Dynamite, oh my God, you have got to go see it. It's got to be probably in the top 10 to 15 of the hardest I've laughed in a movie theater. Part of that was just the environment. There's a lot of Los Angeles references in Black Dynamite as well. You know, there are jokes about Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles.
I mean,
there's constantly, because you constantly got a character Roscoe going, "Welcome to Roscoe's Donuts and Cigarettes," and he's and this Roscoe guy's trying to constantly come up with a name for the restaurant.
Oh God, I love that.
And then it lands on somebody says, "May I get some chicken and waffles?" And you see Roscoe. Of course, if you don't live in LA,
right?
If you don't live in LA, that's not going to mean anything to you. But I was laughing my ass off.
Of course,
Michael Jai White
we had lunch at Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles.
You and I have had lunch at Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles.
Oh my gosh,
I've eaten there a lot. Actually, whenever I'd go over to Dennis Zen, because Dennis Zen lives pretty close to a Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles, so almost any time I'll go over to Dennis's, is like at some point I'll try to plan a stop at Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles. It's fantastic. If you ever visit LA, visit Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles.
You must.
But Michael Jai White, he showed a comedic sense in that movie of knowing when to push the limit of ridiculousness and then ease it back a little bit and then push the limit again and then ease it back again. If you've never seen Black Dynamite, you absolutely have to. Now, on to the question, though, about him possibly playing Green Lantern. It is something that's been brought up by a number of fans in the past about whether Michael Jai White could be a Green Lantern. Now, actually, this is specific. Let's go to what he said himself. Michael Jai White was on his social media and he said the following. "So, I was asked what character I would like to play from the Marvel or DC universe, and that answer would have to be from the DC universe, a character called John Stewart, because that's what everybody wants me to play. That's a Green Lantern, one of the Green Lanterns. So, can't let the fans down. That's Michael Jai White." And of course, Michael Jai White's already kind of in the DC universe because he's in the Arrowverse, and I actually really like him in the Arrowverse as well. So here we go, John Stewart. Now, I'm going to say a couple of things that why I may not love the idea of John Stewart. Or of Michael Jai White playing John Stewart. There's a couple of little reasons. One, to me, is like, for me, because of when I was reading comic books, the definitive Green Lantern is Hal Jordan. You know, it's not Kyle Rayner. It's not Guy Gardner. It's not any of the other characters who have played. To me, the definitive Green Lantern is Hal Jordan. So when I think of Green Lantern, I want to see Hal Jordan. But that's a minor thing. Even if you wanted to go with the John Stewart Green Lantern, which is a very popular Green Lantern because they featured that Green Lantern in a lot of the animated stuff. Mm-hmm. So he's got a real following there too. There are still a couple of reasons why, even though I love Michael Jai White, I don't know that he's the right guy for that. Reason number one is Michael Jai White right now looks 50 times better than me, but he's 52.
He is not 52.
I know, right? I know. He's 52 years old. He's like a genetic freak, but he's 52 years old.
That's incredible.
Now, I just don't know that you can start a new franchise with the lead being 52. But then again, there have been some exceptions to that, so I don't know. But here's the other reason why I don't love the idea of Michael Jai White as Green Lantern, and that is this. If I found out that we got to have Michael Jai White in either the DC or the Marvel universe, the dude's a legit martial artist. He's a guy you don't have to get in stunt doubles. He can do fantastic looking stuff. Mm-hmm. Is that talent? Is that gift going to be wasted on a character where most of the action is going to be CGI, where his most action is by darkest night and ring, do your thing? No, that should be the Green Lantern's new catchphrase. Right. Ring, do your thing.
Ring, do your thing.
So listen, if they announce, because I'm such a huge Michael Jai White fan, were they to announce that he was doing Green Lantern, I'd be fine with it. I mean, I would even be excited. If DC were to call me and say, should we have Michael Jai White as Green Lantern, I'd probably come up with several other names who are also really, really good. Partially because I think at 52, it's a little too old at this point, not to be in big movies, but to start a franchise as a character. But more importantly, I'd be like, hey, listen, if you're looking to put Michael Jai White into some comic book movies, there have got to be other characters we can put him in as where he can show off what he's capable of and really take that to the next level. So I don't know. I feel a little torn about it. Anyway, Aaron, Michael Jai White has been doing some good stuff for a long time. But what do you think about the idea? And what do you think about a celebrity, you know, even getting on social media and talking about roles they'd like to have? So I don't know. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, I mean, I don't think, we talk about, being cautious on social media in multiple ways, not just saying the wrong thing, but also putting something out there that you don't really have an interest in coming to fruition. And so we've seen it time and time again where someone has put something out on social media as almost a beacon of saying, hey guys, I'm actually interested in this. So if I hear there's some buzz around this and I'm open to having that conversation. I will say I think it's a little ageist to suggest that a 52-year-old, especially one who has clearly not physically aged poorly, to say that he can't start a franchise because, look at how old Tom Cruise is, and he's still, and he's jumping out of helicopters and doing crazy things like that.
In a film franchise he's been already doing for over a decade. Let me be very, very clear about that, because, one of the things, they were able to get Hugh Jackman. He could be Wolverine for 20 years.
True.
Because he started playing the character at a certain time. One of the reasons Sony has gone out to get Tom Holland to play Nathan in the Uncharted movies is because they want the potential to have him playing that role for 15 years over 7 films or 8 films. It's not that I don't think Michael Jai White, who is fabulous, can't come in and play a great role in a great action film. I just wonder, are you then limiting it? Can he be playing Green Lantern when he's 70? But
here's the thing, because he's not going to have to do anything more than ring, do your thing. He can.
Kind of like Robert Downey Jr.'s Iron Man. That's true.
Right. And so that's the thing, is that good point. I hear you on your point of, we don't want to waste all of his martial arts talent with a character where he can't show that off. But I think that this is incredible foresight on the part of Michael Jai White to say, this is a character that I'm open to, because this is a character that even when I physically am unable to do all of the stunts that are often required for a more complicated physical character, this is a character that I can do for the next 15 years, believably. And he also might, just because he has that martial arts talent doesn't necessarily mean that he wants to use it in the world of filmmaking. It's one thing to have it as a skill and as a hobby. It's another thing to be required to do it on a set over and over and over again and put your body through those rigors. And comedic actors, you cannot do comedy if you are dumb. Only smart people can do comedy, because it is exponentially more challenging than drama is. And I say that as someone who usually works in drama. No. Comedy's way harder. And so I think that, and so clearly what you were saying about his ability to know when to push and when to pull back.
Incredible comedic senses he has.
That just shows also to his intelligence. And I think that his foresight, I think that his interest in playing a character that he actually can age with and can play for the next 10 to 15 years, because he wouldn't be putting his body through those rigors, speaks to his foresight and him saying, no, I want my own franchise, and this is the right one to do it because this will allow me to age.
All right, question here is, guys, I obviously love Michael Jai White. What do you guys think about the idea of him as Jon Stewart? Do you think that's the right role for him? Do you think it might be better suited for somebody else? Do you think he might be better suited for a different character? Or do you think this is a match made in heaven? What do you guys think? Jump down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right, guys. With all of our main topics now down and out of the way, we're going to transition over here in a second over to the live questions. If you'd like to send in a question for the John Campea Show, the best way to do it, and really only way to do it here for the live segment, is to use the tip link. You can see the link right here, streamelements.com/movieblogtv/tip. You can also just see the link in the top of the description of the video. It's right there at the top. You can just click it if you would like, and we'll get to those in a bit. But before we take our little break, we're going to say adieu to Aaron Cummings. Aaron, thank you for coming in and filling in today. It's always good to have you here. Where can people follow you in your adventures online? Oh,
I would love for you to come visit me either on Twitter or on Instagram, where I will be spending the next week elevating melanated voices and talking about some small businesses, Black-owned businesses that you can pursue for your shopping needs as well. I look forward to seeing all of you online, and tomorrow for No Pants Thursday.
That's right, because I keep forgetting tomorrow is Thursday. All right, guys, listen. If you will hang tight with me for just a moment, I'm going to take a little bit of a break here. Just give myself myself a chance to stretch the legs, rest the vocal cords, and of course, go refill my drink. Give you a chance to run, use the bathroom, talk amongst yourselves. So hang tight, guys. Don't go anywhere. I will be right back. right, guys, and we are back. Thank you so much for your patience and indulgence as I took a little bit of a break there. And again, special thanks to Aaron Cummings for last second coming in to help me out, because that so many topics on that show. I just didn't want to do the show myself today by myself. So thank you to her again, and thank you guys for your patience. All right, with all that down, let's now get in to your live questions. Where are we starting from? We're going to start right here. And guys, listen, there's like 5 days worth of live questions. I'm going to go as long today as my voice will allow. I'm going to go as long as my voice will allow. So we'll see how that goes. All right. Next, first up here, we're going to get to Hold a second here. I don't have this position properly. Let me fix this. All right. We have Wiz Elante who writes, hey, John. Hello, Wiz. I've been a fan since 2015. Love your commentary, although don't necessarily agree all the time. Well, that's the thing. You're not supposed to agree all the time. The fact that you don't agree all the time shows you got a sharp mind. Though I don't necessarily agree all the time, but respect your knowledge and insight, I have more of a theory rather than a question. Let me know the plausibility, not possibility, over or under 20%. Snyder Cut ends as film, but Batfleck sacrifices himself with editing magic. Closure with the voiceover and roll credits in. Chris McKay, Nightwing, Dick Grayson, not Battison, takes up Batsoup, helping Warner Brothers to continue with DCEU cast and Batman. Plausible over under 20%. I'm going to say it's under 20%. And the reason I'm going to say it's under 20% is because, I'm not zero. I'm not saying zero. The reason I'm going to say it's under 20% is because that's not Zack Snyder's vision. Like the whole idea about Snyder Cut, for good or for bad, is that it's to take what his film was that he shot, because he already shot the movie, is to take the film that he shot, get it finished, and release it. Right now, the official word is there's not going to be any reshoots. It's all going to be just editing what they've already got, maybe some actors doing some additional voiceover work, but that's the extent of it right now. Doing something like that means it's not actually Zack Snyder's vision. It's not taking what the whole idea of the Snyder Cut was, which was get the movie he shot, allow him to edit, post-production it, CGI it, put all the finishes on it, get it done, and release it as it was originally envisioned. This would be outside of that. So while I will certainly not say zero, because anything is possible in this business, I'm going to say it's under 20% for now. So that's where I'm going to go with on that. An interesting thought, though, Wiz. Interesting thought. All right. Seattle Wonder Woman tips in $50. Thank you, Seattle Wonder Woman. I appreciate that very much. Thank you for supporting the channel on that level. And Seattle Wonder Woman writes, John, my boyfriend and I love your show. Thank you so much. And he agrees with you on Man of Steel, most underrated, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Thank you for that. Today is his birthday. And I wanted to ask, what are you most excited about with your move up to Seattle? Speaking as a Seattleite, I can't wait to have you and Ann here. Well, I think, first of all, happy birthday to your boyfriend. I hope he had a wonderful birthday and a tremendous year ahead of him. I honestly, because I've been to Seattle, I think twice. My first visit to Seattle, and the most substantial visit to Seattle I ever had, was for the Seattle International Film Festival a long time ago. This was in the first 1 or 2 years that I was working with AMC. I went up to cover the Seattle International Film Festival, had a wonderful time, and great city, beautiful. But I really don't know much about Seattle, to be honest with you, other than the fact that Frasier took place in Seattle. So I think the thing I'm most excited about is just doing something new. Listen, I have relocated a couple of times in my life. I went from, Hamilton, Ontario to the west coast of Canada. Then I lived there, or not the west coast, but more Western Canada. Then I was there for about 6 or 7 years, moved back to Canada. Then from there, I moved to Los Angeles, which was another big move and a big change. And now the idea of going from Los Angeles, and I've been here for about 10 years. Now going off to Seattle is a pretty big thing to me. That's a pretty big deal. So we'll see. We'll see. So I don't know what it is I'm most excited about it, other than just the idea of a new scenery, like a new environment, new communities, new scenery, new experiences. So I guess that would be it. But anyway, thank you again for writing it in. Thank you for supporting the channel on that level. And again, happy birthday to your boyfriend. And thank you so much for watching as a couple. That's awesome. All right, next up, Glenn Tracy writes, personally, I've always preferred Marvel over DC. However, even I have to hold my hands up and admit the original 6 members of the Justice League might be the most powerful team put together. Challenge time. Can you pick 6 legit Avengers and 6 X-Men that you think could rival them in a triple threat? Although I prefer Marvel, I can't put a team together from either that would beat them. Even if the Trinity goes down, I see Flash and Martian Manhunter as a problem. Well, this is the problem, Glenn. This is always the problem when it comes to that. Like, could Superman beat Flash? Could Iron Man fight Nightwing? The problem you always face is it all depends on who is writing the issue. Because a certain writer might write Iron Man versus Nightwing, and Nightwing beats Iron Man. If another writer writes it, Iron Man beats Nightwing, or vice versa. I mean, it really all depends. And, you know, we live in a world where in a DC movie, in one specific circumstance, Batman beats Superman. And it's happened in the comics as well. So, I mean, in a world where Superman could be beat, first of all, Superman is the granddaddy of all superheroes. That should be the end of the discussion. I don't care what other, well, in this comic book, they wrote this character in this way. I don't care. Superman is the granddaddy of all superheroes. But even within that reality, Batman has defeated him. That means he's beatable. That means anybody's beatable. That means anybody could beat anybody, to quote Al Pacino, on any given Sunday. So it all depends on who's writing. I mean, if a mortal human being like Batman can beat Superman in the right circumstances, then any collection of X-Men could theoretically, under the right circumstances, beat Superman. Then any member of the Avengers, under the right circumstances, could beat Superman. So it really all depends. I could list any 6 X-Men characters and any 6 Marvel characters, and depending on who's writing it, they could theoretically beat the Justice League. Maybe it's only 1 time out of 100. Maybe it's 10 times out of 100. But the point is, in a world, including a DC universe, where Batman has beaten Superman, theoretically anybody could. Not that Batman. John, are you saying Batman is just anybody? No, obviously not. He is like the next big granddad of all superheroes. But it creates a problem, and it all depends on who is writing that conflict. Because who's writing the conflict will determine who wins the fight. So it's one of the big problems whenever we come up with these fantasy matchups. Thanks for writing that in, Glenn. All right, JJV writes, if everything is back to normal next year and movie theaters are up and running, which movie do you see dominating the box office? For some reason, I think Jurassic World 3 will outgross movies like Avatar 2, The Batman, and Spider-Man 3. I don't think so. And one of the main reasons I don't think so, and remember, I'm saying I don't think so. Hold a second. So world box office. Hold a second. The reason I don't think so is because when you look at Jurassic World, first of all, Jurassic World made $1.67 billion. Okay, Jurassic World made $1.67 billion. Jurassic World 2 Fallen Kingdom took a $300 million step backwards at 1.3 billion. I mean, it still made a stupidly good amount of money. 1.3 billion is one of the most successful films of all time. It's incredible. It's a great result. But it was a $300 million step backwards at the same time. And it wasn't super well received. I actually thought it was better than the first Jurassic World personally, but it wasn't that greatly received by the audience. It made $300 million less. So saying that, I think it's reasonable to guess right now, just guess, that the next Jurassic World movie will make between $1 and $1.2 billion. I think that's reasonable. Between 1 and 1.2 billion. I think it's reasonable to think it can come in there. So then the question becomes, can Avatar exceed, let's go from the top end. Can Avatar exceed 1.2 billion? Yes, it can. I'm not saying it will, but it can. Can The Batman exceed 1.2 billion? Oh, bet your ass it could. It'll all depend on when the trailers come out and how good does it look and does it catch people's attention and all that kind of stuff. But if you were to ask me right now, does The Batman have the potential to exceed, say, 1.2 billion? Oh, maybe not 2 billion, but 1.2 billion? Yeah, I think it's got that potential. So yeah, no, I don't think, all things being equal, I don't think Jurassic World 3 will be the dominant film at the box office that year. But then again, wait, we haven't even seen the trailers yet. Once we see trailers, once we get a sense of how the audience is responding to the marketing, we may change our minds. But for now, I don't think Jurassic World 3 will be the big dominant one that year. Good question though, JJ. All right, next up, Dan Ketchum writes, I was just rewatching some old oh God, I love SCTV. I was just rewatching some old SCTV episodes. Man, I love those crazy Canadians, Catherine O'Hara, Martin Short, John Candy, so many, Eugene Levy, Joe Flaherty, Dave Thomas. I mean, it just went on and on. It was just amazing. Anyway, so many greats. As a total aside, go SpaceX, suck that Boeing. Yeah, the SCTV was hilarious. Rick Moranis, obviously Rick Moranis and Dave Thomas as Bob and Doug McKenzie, the most famous thing to come out of SCTV. But SCTV was constantly hilarious. It was constantly hilarious. And it was a Hall of Fame cast. It was an absolute Hall of Fame cast. A lot of Americans don't know SCTV, which is too bad because it was very much a Canadian thing. But I'm glad you brought it up, Dan. Thanks for bringing that up. All right, Eric C. writes, although your thoughts on Justice League Apocalypse are valid, your comments on the Parademons are off. That is how the Parademons have been animated since the Justice League animated series in 2001. That doesn't excuse it. A more recent example of the latest episodes of Harley Quinn, which Harley Quinn going to Apocalypse was kind of fun. That was a fun one. But oh my God, the last episode of Harley Quinn where they go to Themyscira for Poison Ivy's bachelorette party. Oh my, I was laughing so hard that entire, if you haven't seen the latest episode of Harley Quinn, you absolutely must. Yeah, one of the things, I didn't think Justice League Apocalypse was very good. And one of many things I didn't like about it was I thought the animation was very cheap and very low budget. John, what do you expect for a movie that's straight to home video? I get it. And I understand that. I do. But one of my criticisms that always pulled me out, and yes, they've done it before, but that doesn't excuse it, is like Parademons are flying by the screen. They don't even animate it like at all. They're literally like a solid figure, right? Just a drawn figure, and they don't even animate the figure. Nothing about the figure moves. It's just that the figure is going across the screen, totally not moving, but it just floats across the screen as if. And that was just an example of the fact that I thought the animation of Justice League Apocalypse was very poor and totally cheap looking. And a million times better than I could do, sure, but I'm not the standard of excellence. So yeah, whatever. It just wouldn't work. But the important thing is a lot of people did like it. And that's the important thing. But unfortunately, I was one that didn't like it. All right. Jake C. writes, I've heard this argument from a pirate I know and was wondering your thoughts. It's not stealing. Oh yeah, piracy is stealing. If you hop in somebody's car and drive away, they're robbed of their car. If you had the power to duplicate that guy's car and drive away, nobody was robbed. Oh no, yes, somebody was robbed. The people who designed, researched, engineered, and built the car for sale got robbed. Here's the thing. When somebody creates something, I get it. Look, I understand the temptations of piracy. I do. But I'm sorry, you can't semantic your way out of it. Piracy is theft. Just own up to it. Just admit, yeah, it's stealing. It's theft, but I want to do it. At least just own up to it and be honest. Like a buddy, I won't say their name, a buddy of mine totally pirates all the time. And I give him a hard time for it. But he's like, yeah, it's stealing, but, you know, I'm just going to do it. Anyway. Listen, when somebody puts in years of their life and works tirelessly and designs, researches, prototypes, manufactures, markets, and creates a product with the intention of sale, and you find a way to take that product without paying for it, I'm sorry, that's stealing. That's stealing. When somebody puts in time, energy, effort, money, finances, years of their life to developing, producing, and releasing something with the intention that it's going to be purchased for sale, and somebody circumvents that and takes it without paying for it, that's stealing. It just is. It's stealing. John Schnepp, you know, Robert and I have talked about this a lot. But John Schnepp is a great example, is that for me is the face of that. Somebody who was devastatingly hurt by piracy. He put years of his life into making this diehard passion project of his with The Death of Superman Lives, What Happened. Put years of his life into that. And the idea was, if I do a good job, people will buy it, and then we'll use that money to then do another project and make another movie that people will like and enjoy. And this can be my career. And so he invested all of his money. He maxed out all of his cards. He put all of his energy and power and passion into making it. And then tens of thousands of people, maybe more, found a way to circumvent the mechanisms in place for him to sell it and took it for free. That meant that, first of all, on an emotional level, that devastated Schnepp. Schnepp, more than anybody I've ever known in my life, loved the fan community. Loved the fan community more than anything else. He was so devastated that so many in the fan community would turn on him and take his creation without paying for it. It devastated him. And he was really hurt by it. And then, of course, just the financial repercussions of it, that he was never able to make the money on that project that he deserved to make, that he could then take it and say, okay, we were rewarded for our work. Now we're going to take these finances and these money and we're going to do a new movie project together and we're going to do that and blah, blah, blah. He never got that chance. Not because not enough people saw his movie, but too many people stole his movie. And forever, John and Holly, Holly, his partner, who also worked and tirelessly put in blood, sweat, and tears to get that movie made, it completely killed their dream because of piracy. And forever, they'll be the face. When I think of piracy, they'll be the face that I think of. So, look, you can try to rationalize it, and people can try to semantics their way out of it. It's stealing. It is. And I'm not here condemning anybody for it. I'm just saying it is what it is. So anyway, there's that, Jake. All right, next up. Everything Entertainment writes, I feel like the low download number for Max, HBO Max, is that all the people that had HBO Now and HBO Go automatically updated it to Max, so it doesn't count as a download. I also think they were counting on the Friends reunion for day one, but had no backup plan. Yeah, I think you're right about that. I think HBO Max definitely was planning on having the Friends reunion as a day one launch, available for day one, and of course then the pandemic killed all those plans. And yes, I think definitely something you got to take in consideration when you look at the download numbers for HBO Max and why they were so low was that didn't count all the people who were already HBO subscribers and just automatically uploaded them. True. But remember, there's a lot of other services that launch that don't count other things like free subscribers who, because they were Verizon subscribers already, they got it for free and blah, blah, blah. So it is definitely one of the elements that's got to be taken into consideration. I think you're absolutely right about that. However, those initial download numbers, even not counting the pre-existing HBO members who just got automatically upgraded, that number that they still ended up with was still way below what their expectations were. And I mean, not being on the two biggest streaming platforms to start off with didn't do them any favors. I'm going to get it eventually once it's available to be viewed on Roku. And I'm looking forward to it because I've been excited for 6 months for HBO Max, but they really did drop the ball on their launch. They'll recover. They'll totally recover, but they did drop the ball on their launch. All right. The Movie Idiot writes, Roku and Amazon at this point have elected not to be distributors. We must be doing something right if somebody believes we are now starting to be more in conflict with their business. So I don't necessarily take that as a bad sign. John Stanley from HBO. Yeah, that was brutal spin. That was brutal spin. The fact of the matter is, HBO is not happy that they're not on Roku and Amazon, and they're lying. Roku did not choose not to have HBO on their platform. Amazon Fire did not choose to not have HBO on their platform. It's just that HBO was completely unprepared. They didn't negotiate properly. They didn't get their deals done. And that's actually, I was going to say that's good PR spin, but that's not even good PR spin. That's terrible PR spin. Nobody believes that. Nobody believes that. They've got to get their... They believe me, HBO wants to be on Roku, and believe me, Roku wants HBO Max on there, but they just got to get the deal done. They got to get the deal done. All right, an anonymous viewer writes, Sonic never opened in a lot of Asian markets, true. So Paramount probably sees a lot of potential for a sequel to make more money. As a Sonic fan who plays Sonic games, yes, they do still make new Sonic games. I am very happy about the news. Of course, it was announced last week when we talked about on this show that Sonic the Hedgehog has been greenlit, and it was profitable, but it didn't make hold on a second, let me look something up. It didn't make as much money as you might think. It made just over $300 million, right? It made just over $300 million. It didn't get a big Asian release, but here's the problem. Because some movies make so much money overseas in Asian markets, because some movies make that much money overseas, like in Asian markets. And it's rare that they do. But now film fans, and I get caught in this too, we seem to have this assumption that, if a movie opens in China, it's going to make $400 million more dollars. It's just going to make $400 million more dollars if it does. And that's just not the case. Let's look at a similarly positioned movie in Detective Pikachu. All right, Pokemon Detective Pikachu. Pokemon Detective Pikachu did play in China, but it didn't make half of its money. Pokemon made like Detective Pikachu made $433 million. It's not like 220 of that came from China, right? Detective Pikachu, which I think was better positioned to make money in China than, say, Sonic was, Detective Pikachu made just over 90, which, hey, is nothing to sneeze at. It's nothing to sneeze at. But I think what that means is, realistically, okay, so instead of 300 million, if it had played in China and some Asian markets, then maybe it would have made 360, maybe 365, which is an improvement, but it's not like it's a night and day difference. It's not like it would have gone from 300 million to 700 million if only it had played in China. You know what I'm saying? So, yes, you do have to take into consideration when looking at Sonic's box office results, which, by the way, was still profitable. Not hugely profitable, but it was profitable. You do have to take that little grain of salt when looking at their box office result that, I do not believe it got a China release. And it would have made a little bit more. But I don't think the night and difference more that some people assume it would have. But we'll never know. We'll never know. So there's that. Either way, it's going to get its sequel. And I, for one, am super stoked to see Jim Carrey back as Dr. Robotnik again, because he was awesome in that. All right, next up. Jordan RTK writes, "Hey, John. So in regards to the Batman being separate from the DCEU, do you believe that they will continue the DCEU without a Batman for now, or recast Ben Affleck and have two running concurrently? Reeves' Batman doesn't seem to fit, so what happens?" I mean, that's the billion-dollar question, Jordan. I'm not sure. What I don't think they're going to do is have two different Batmen running around on screen on the big screen at the same time. I don't think they're going to do that. I know Warner Brothers was very apprehensive about that, even when George Miller was developing his Justice League movie, because he was doing that with Armie Hammer as Batman while Christopher Nolan's Batman series was going on, and it created some problems and some conflicts and whatever. I don't think that's their plan. But again, that's why I'm emphasizing the word think. I don't think that's what they'll do. I don't think that's their plan. There's too many drawbacks to it. And by the way, as of this moment, for all we know, maybe Robert Pattinson's Batman is in the DCEU. I don't think he is, but he might be. I mean, so there's a lot of question marks. So what I think, and I'm not super convicted about this, what I think is, I think Robert Pattinson's Batman will be outside of the DCEU, but I don't know that. And then I don't think that Warner Brothers will have another Batman running around in the DCEU while Robert Pattinson's Batman is also on the big screen outside of the DCEU. I don't think they're going to do that. They could, though. They could, and I won't fall out of my chair in shock if they do, but I don't think that's the way they're going to go. We'll find out soon enough. 2021. It's coming. We'll find out soon enough. All right. Henri Martens writes, "Hey, John, I was 17 when I started watching the movie blog, and today I'm turning 29. Wow, you're like back from the movie blog era. Thank you so much for following ever since then. Today I'm turning 29. Time flies. It certainly does. The passion you and Rob have for film really inspires me. I'm writing my first short film. Oh, congratulations. That's awesome. And my first art show is in November. That is great. I'm hoping I have better luck than a little bit of an office joke in there. Better luck than Pam. Listen, Henri, I think it's awesome when somebody has artistic dreams, or any kind of dreams is awesome. in our little sphere here, artistic dreams is great, but too many people have artistic dreams and they never actually do anything to pursue them. You are, and I think that's awesome, dude. So thank you for being around since the movie blog days, and I hope your art show goes well, and I hope your short film turns out well too, man. Thank you for that. Anyway, Henry Arts follows up. My short film is loosely inspired by true events. All the names are changed and a lot of the details are different, but does every movie inspired by true events need permission from the real people? How does that work? Would love to hear your thoughts. It really all depends on how much are you altering it, right? And by the way, I'm not an entertainment lawyer, so don't take anything I'm saying as legal advice. From my understanding, is that it really all depends on how derivative it is. Do you really make it its own thing where it doesn't resemble the true events too awfully closely? If it does, the best thing to do is to go and engage with an entertainment lawyer or a copyright lawyer. And you could probably get a free session. If not, pay for a 1-hour consultation, explain to an entertainment lawyer what it is you're trying to do, explain how it is you're approaching it, and get a legal opinion from an actual entertainment lawyer or a copyright lawyer or one of those fields. Get an actual opinion from a legal professional about where does your responsibility lie. So that would be my highest recommendation is don't just fly with it. Don't just wing it. Don't just go off of what you heard somebody on the internet say. I would say go engage a lawyer, 1-hour consultation, 2-hour, whether it's a free one or a paid one, whatever, it is totally worth every penny to cover yourself, cover your bases, and make sure that that doesn't bite you in the ass later. So that's my biggest advice to you on that, Henry, and good luck with that, man. All right, Saberwolf writes, Rob, love the episode, of course, who's not here right now, love the episode you did of whining about movies, Brotherhood of the Wolf. It's one of my favorites. Vincent Cassel was a badass villain, and that sword he had was epic. Awesome period piece, good story. What are your thoughts on this movie, John? It's funny because recently we've talked a lot about Brotherhood of the Wolf, and just let me bring something up here. We've talked a lot about that movie recently. I don't know why it's been coming up a lot lately, but it's been coming up an awful lot. Of course, Vincent Cassel is fabulous. I mean, most of his career has been done in foreign films, but some people were known from like Oceans or Black Swan or whatever. He's fabulous. I love Vincent Cassel. And he was married for a bunch of years to maybe the most beautiful woman to ever walk the face of the earth, Monica Bellucci. So hats off to you, sir, for that. That's definitely a mark in the old life accomplishments things. But it's difficult, I gotta say. It's really unfortunate because Mark, I gotta always mispronounce his last name, Dacascos. Mark Dacascos? I always mispronounce his last name. Mark Dacascos. I'll bring up his image here just so you know exactly who I'm talking about. And it's just good that his IMDb image is image from Brotherhood of the Wolf. It is really too bad because he's really good in movies. And he was just in John Wick 3 recently. He was in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. He's done a bunch of stuff. It is so unfortunate, though, that whenever I see Mark, all I think of is Iron Chef. Because, of course, for years, he was the chairman of Kitchen Stadium of Iron Chef. In the words of my uncle, and then everybody, I loved him in that. He's one of the reasons I loved watching Iron Chef, because this character he played on it was so great. I loved him in it. But the unfortunate thing about that success, because success can be a double-edged sword sometime. The unfortunate thing about that success was that it's kind of what I think about now. Whenever even in John Wick 3, like all I could see was him as Iron Chef. I was waiting for him to tell John Wick, before we battle, we must know our secret ingredient. Red bell peppers. And, I was just expecting something like that all the time, which is unfortunate. Success can have its drawbacks, but I do like him a lot. And the movie's great. And again, it's really funny how many people have been bringing that one up lately. All right, next up. D-Train writes, some important quotes from The Dark Knight. When the chips are down, these civilized people will eat each other. And madness is like gravity. All you need is a little push. Who knew that the most villainous character in history can be right about society? Well, okay, look, I don't want to get into the political or anything like that, but let me say this. While that is an apt movie quote for today's age, what is going on, what has precipitated all this is not some little push. what has precipitated, whichever side you're on today about what should be done, who's right, or whatever side you're on is irrelevant. What precipitated the circumstances we find ourselves in are decades of systemic racial inequality in this country. Listen, it's not a little nudge when a kid goes jogging, black kid goes jogging in a white neighborhood, and a couple of Jethro Eli buttfucks decide to get in their pickup with shotguns because he looks shady. Let's go hunt him down in our pickup trucks with our shotguns and shoot him to death. And the police have the video of it for weeks and didn't arrest them. Didn't arrest them for weeks. Until the video got leaked to the public, and then the police arrested them. When you have a scenario where you have a black man who is handcuffed on the ground, totally helpless, and his throat is crushed while he's begging for his life that he can't breathe, regardless of where you're at with the circumstances that we're in right now, you've got to agree that the events that precipitated the circumstances we're in was no little nudge. It was no slight breeze. They are tantamount, almost avatar-like events that become avatars for a situation that the black community has been trying to raise awareness of for decades. And listen, wherever you are, and oh God, I hate getting in anything world events wise or political on this show. This show is supposed to be a safe haven for us as movie fans, just to come and shut the rest of the world out and just come together as film fans, talk about as film fans. But I'm going to break my rule for just for a second here. Just for a second. Follow me here, okay? When the black community, particularly black athletes, just a couple of years ago, tried to peacefully, respectfully bring attention to the issue of the violence their communities face by kneeling, not laying down while they're masturbating, not stretching out on the grass with their hands behind their heads, by kneeling quietly during the national anthem to raise awareness to the violence that their communities face. And they got yelled at. They got screamed at. We had people in the government telling the NFL, you should fire those people who dare try to raise awareness and quietly, respectfully, and peacefully protest the violence their communities face. What do you expect? When people try to communicate the right way and they're shouted down and they're vilified, what message are we sending? And listen, I'm freaking a white guy, Canadian white guy of Italian heritage. I don't know what the fuck I'm talking about. All I know is when I see a group of people trying to communicate the right way and they get shut down, I just ask, then what is the message we're sending? What are we telling them to do? I mean, I don't know. I don't know. It is a brutal, awful situation that I'm sure a lot of movies are going to be made about in the coming years. Daisy, I brought it back around to movies. I know a lot of movies are going to be made about in a lot of years. And you know, even just the fact that I just said that, I'm sure there's a lot of people right now composing very angry emails to me saying, John, I'm unsubscribing. I'm never going to follow you again. Okay, fine. You do that. But again, it is It is the difficult question we face when we have a community that for so long has tried to plead their case and has tried in so many different ways to bring attention and to this issue, to raise awareness of this issue, to protest this issue, and they do it the right way. They do it peacefully. They do it respectfully. They do it quietly. They do it almost in a way of reverence, and we shout them down. They get told they should be fired from their jobs. We don't want to hear what you have to say. What message are we sending them? And I don't know what the answers are. But it's a shit show that we're in now. And we all have knee-jerk, all of us have knee-jerk, angry responses. We're passionate, we're angry, there are terrible things happening. And I don't know what the answer is right now. Fortunately, it's not my job to come up with the answers. I'm just a movie guy. But anyway, there's that. So let's get back to movie stuff, shall we? Let's get back to movie stuff. Anyway, thank you for indulging my spiel. You know, on this show, I don't like to go into that kind of stuff. It's not my area, and it's not what we're all here for. So thank you for your indulgence as I did that for a moment. I appreciate it. All right, Bob and Robbie writes, "Hey, John and Rob, yesterday was Robbie's 10th birthday. I'm not quite sure who Robbie is. He's my son and my best friend and my movie partner. For his birthday, I decided to start Hot Toys collection with him that he could continue as he gets older. I got him the Infinity War Thanos." Well, listen, Bob, whoo, that ain't a cheap hobby you've started down. But at the same time, what a cool thing, because even if you like twice a year, you know, you and Robbie get a Hot Toy. By the time he's like 30, he's got like 40 or 50 Hot Toys, right? That becomes like something you can pass down from age. I think that's a great idea, man. I think that's awesome. Good job, man. Again, not one I can do because I can't afford that, but I think that's great. Thanks for that, man. All right. Let's see here. An anonymous viewer writes, Gladiator, Hulk, Spider-Man Homecoming. Oh, I think this is Bob again. Gladiator, Hulk, Spider-Man Homecoming Deluxe, Thor, The Dark World, Loki, Darth Maul, and Iron... By the way, Darth Maul is always one of my favorite figures of any collection. The Darth Maul figures of almost any collection is always great. Captain Marvel Deluxe, Endgame Captain, and Captain Rex. You're right, John. It is an addition. I'm telling you, I got my first Hot Toy, and before I blinked, I had 4. And then I'm like, okay, I got to stop because I'm going to go broke. But you get that first one, and it's like, boom. I didn't have any Funko Pops, which you can see a bunch behind me. I had no Funko Pops. I got my first ones that my brother-in-law Ray bought me, and before I knew it, I had 200. So it's like, of course, it's a lot more affordable than, say, the Hot Toys are. Nonetheless. But yeah, it's a great one to have, man. It becomes something you can pass down. So thanks for sharing that, dude. All right. The Wakandan Forever writes, I wanted to say thank you for the video and acknowledging what has been going on, dropping the veil of the Wakandan of Wakanda for a minute. As a black man living in Oakland, California, I have experienced the recent events firsthand. Stand for justice, not chaos. That's a good message, Wakanda. That's a very, very good message and very applicable to our time. Greg Scott Bailey writes, so after the Zoom get-together Sunday, support the John Campea Show Patreon, folks. But for those of you who don't know what he's talking about, on this past Sunday, we had a big Zoom get-together with for our Patreon that was open to all of our Patreon supporters, and I really had a good time doing it. It was really fun. So thank you for being there and being a part of that, Greg. I put on Man of Steel, Batman vs Superman Ultimate Cut, and Justice League. I used to think they were okay, but something sparked. John, I actually really loved this viewing session. It's always good. First of all, everybody knows what I think of Man of Steel, and I like Batman vs Superman, and I like Justice League. Not nearly as much as Man of Steel, but I like both those movies. Anyway. When you can sit down and watch them in one sitting, there are other films like this as well, too. But when you get to sit down, it just gives you a different appreciation. They flow a little bit different, and it gives you a little bit of a different appreciation for them. So I think that was a really good thing to do, Greg. You know, I'm going to have to do that, I think, one of these days. I don't think I've done a one-session sit-down where I watch Man of Steel and then go right into Batman versus Superman. I should do that sometime because it probably gives you a little bit of a different feel, a little bit of a different perspective as you're watching. So I like the idea, man. I really do. All right, next up, Darren Barnes writes, hi, John, new Patreon supporter. Well, thank you for being here, Darren, and thank you for being a Patreon supporter. We appreciate that. One guilty pleasure movie clip that gives me the feels is Iron Eagle. where the lead starts to play Queen, one vision on a tape deck, strapped to his leg whilst in his F-16, and he starts to kick ass. I get the feels every time. I'm trying to remember the name of the main guy. Of course, Lou Gossett Jr. was also in Iron Eagle. He was an Academy Award winner. Lou Gossett Jr., he didn't win his Academy Award for that, though. He won his Academy Award for Officer and a Gentleman that he did with Richard Gere and Deborah Winger, I think. Anyway, so Iron Eagle. Iron Eagle is one of the more perplexing film franchises to me because it did something, because I liked Iron Eagle. I mean, totally, a Top Gun wannabe movie for sure, but I liked Iron Eagle, all right? I liked Iron Eagle. But I remember even as a kid, I was dumbfounded, absolutely dumbfounded, that this is the first time I had seen something like this in movies, okay? It was the first time I had seen something like this specifically in movies, where you go into the sequel, Iron Eagle 2, and in the first 3 minutes, they kill the main character from Iron Eagle 1. Just like in the first couple of minutes, oh, yeah, him? Yeah, he's dead. And because Lou Gossett Jr. is an Academy Award winner, we need to focus on Lou Gossett Jr., who is amazing, was just in Watchmen, by the way. He was great in Watchmen, the HBO series. Anyway, and I still remember watching that whole movie, still shocked. I got through all of Iron Eagle 2, still shocked that they just killed off the main character from the first movie in the first 3 minutes. I'm like, what? It reminded me a lot. Man, now I'm really going to date myself here. It reminded me a lot of, did any of you guys ever see the Ewoks made for TV movies? There were 2 Ewok television movies that they did. And in the first one, it's, the Ewoks find this little girl who I think her family had crashed on Endor. And they were in danger from some other of the native species of the planet. And it's about this little girl with the help of Wicket and the Ewoks to go and rescue her family, right? Big happy ending. Then they do the Ewok movie 2, and the family gets killed in the first couple of minutes. They just killed off the family from the first couple of minutes. It's one of the strangest things. Iron Eagle, for that reason, will always be one of the strangest things to me, Darren. It will always be one of the strangest things to me. All right. Digital Robbie writes, hey, John, what's happening in the U.S. reminds me of the need for unification and harmony that we saw into the Spider-Verse with Spider-Man in different color. I think you're talking about Miles Morales. Maybe Sony will fast track live action Miles Morales movie as that much is needed right now. Agree? No, I don't agree. I don't think, not that I'm against the idea about doing a Miles Morales movie if they wanted to, but I don't think doing a Miles Morales live action film, which I don't think Sony is interested. Sony wants Peter Parker as their live action Spider-Man. And Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse was my 3rd favorite film of the year. Not my 3rd favorite comic book film of the year. It was the best comic book film of the year. That includes Infinity War. I thought Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse was better than Infinity War. I'll say it. And I loved Infinity War. But I thought it was the 3rd best movie of the year. Or I thought it should have been nominated for Best Picture. I really do. I thought Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse should have been nominated for Best Picture. But no, doing a movie with Miles Morales as Spider-Man is not going to do anything to unify anybody. I think it wouldn't be I'm not saying it's a bad idea, but I don't think it would accomplish the things that you're thinking about. There's artistic merit to it. There might be some business merit to it, but is there sociological merit to it? I'm not sure. So I don't know that I agree. I don't know what that I agree. I'll tell you what, though. After watching Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, I'm personally more, even though, look, to me, Spider-Man is Peter Parker. That's it. To me, Spider-Man is Peter Parker. Yes, I know Ben Reilly is running around, the Scarlet Spider, Ben Reilly, the clone of Peter Parker. I know he's running around out there somewhere. But to me, Peter Parker is Spider-Man. But I got to tell you, man, I loved that Miles Morales iteration in Spider-Verse so much more than I thought I would. I was really pleasantly surprised. So anyway, that's just my thought on that. Okay, anyway, next up. Wakanda Forever writes, I have to thank and acknowledge the real Wakandans out there, the people who go out of their way to help others, those who put themselves in harm's way to protect those who are hurting, the people with the message, and those who clean up in the morning. I think in the midst, one of the silver linings of the terrible storm that we can be in, whether it's the storm we have right now or other storms we have faced. One of the silver linings that will often emerge is that in our worst situations, it can sometimes bring out the best in good people. And I think even now, and it's unfortunate that it's being drowned out by a lot of other stuff, but I think even now we're seeing some of these situations bring out the best in some people. And it's always good to look for those silver linings, even in the midst of the storm. So well said, Wakanan. Okay, next up, Super Saiyan Dom writes, and this is a $50 tip, so thank you for writing that in, man. We appreciate you supporting the channel on that level. If there's a question here, I will try to answer it now, and I will try to answer it in its own standalone video in the coming weeks. Anyway, greetings, John. Long time, first time. Well, thank you so much for writing in, man. It's my son Roman's 8th birthday today. He means everything to me, and it would mean a lot if my favorite person in the world could get a birthday shout out from my favorite person I listen to every day. Love you, man. Well, thank you so much for that, Super Saiyan. And listen, man, absolutely happy birthday, 8th birthday to you. By the way, very cool name. I don't know why. I love the name Roman. I love the name Roman. It's not just because I'm Italian. I love the name Roman. That's awesome. So happy birthday to Roman. If you are watching right now with your dad, Roman, happy birthday to you. I hope you had a wonderful birthday. You have a wonderful birthday week and a wonderful birthday year. So happy birthday. And thanks for writing that in, Super Saiyan Dom. I appreciate that. And happy birthday again, Roman. You have a cool name that I'm very jealous of. Giovanni's okay, but I like Roman. Anyway, someone wrote in, what do you think of movies bringing back the short film before features? Imagine how cool it would be to have like a 5 to 7 minute live action short film, Batman versus Mr. Freeze. Oh, they would never do it. Before Wonder Woman 84. Warner Brothers could make it for 5 to 10 million. I think it would be good for marketing. Here's the thing with that. If somebody is interested in seeing Batman versus Mr. Freeze, I think the odds are those people are probably going to go see Wonder Woman 84 anyway. Aren't they? Like if you're so into comic book movies and stuff like that, that you'd be interested in a 5 to 10 minute Batman versus, Mr. Freeze short, wouldn't that person already probably likely be somebody who's going to go see Wonder Woman 84 anyway? So I don't know. Listen, a short film playing before a feature is something Pixar has been doing for the longest time. And I love it, actually. As long as it's not too long. Like, remember they did that little Frozen short, but it was like over 20 minutes long, and a lot of people got pissed off at it because it made the movie like really super long. So I don't know. I mean, I like the idea of something short and experimental. But I don't think you do. I think you cheapen big name characters by dropping them in a short film before the main film. I think you cheapen the characters. So I don't know about that. But in principle, I like the idea of short. One of the things I look forward to when I go to a Pixar movie is the fact that we're going to get a little short in front of it. Like, for example, Onward, that was just out in theaters before the lockdown happened. I really like Onward, but they had a Simpsons, instead of a Pixar short, they did a Simpsons short. The Maggie short, which I thought was hilarious. I love that Maggie short. I really do like the idea of a short 5-6 minute short. Not these 20-minute things that like Frozen did, but a nice little 5-minute short, something kind of experimental. I'd be down for that. I'd be very, very down for that, but that's my take on it. All right, Evan Ryan writes, hey, John, your thoughts on Woodley versus Burns? Woodley's broken. Mark Woodley's broken. Usman broke Tyrone Woodley. He broke him. When Woodley lost his title to Usman broke him. Because that guy, all due respect to Burns, because Burns was excellent in that fight against Woodley. He was excellent. All due respect to him. But that was not the Tyrone Woodley that I expected to see in that ring. He was timid. He was clearly broken. He's not the same fighter he was. And it was so bad. I remember I even tweeted wondering if he should just retire at this point. And then I heard, which commentator was? It wasn't Michael Bisping. It was Kenny Florian. I heard Kenny Florian even comment on it and say, I watched that guy, that Woodley, that guy who looks like Tyrone Woodley. He doesn't look like he's interested in fighting. And maybe it's time to walk away because I think Usman literally broke something in him. So I don't know. But I thought Burns is legit, man. Burns is for real. I was real impressed with him. All right, Ryan Lohner writes, the Ender Schindler's List says that in 1993, there were over 6,000 descendants of the people he saved. In 2012, that number was updated to over 8,500. That line, there will be generations because of what you did, is no exaggeration. And I think that's a great allegory of what kindness doesn't disappear. I think any act of kindness and goodness has a ripple effect that maybe we don't ever see, but others do. When you give a phone call to somebody who's just having a really bad day, that can change their entire day. And that may affect how they interact with somebody else later. And then that affects, and it creates this, ripple effect. And I remember I thought about that the first time I saw Schindler's List, is like the good that you did is going to replicate and have a cascading effect on people's lives moving forward. And that's just a great visual example of that. I think that's a really good thing to bring up, Ryan. Thank you for sharing that. That's a great thing. I didn't know about that. Skywalker Zorel writes, I like that name. Skywalker Zorel also sends a $50 tip. Thank you, Skywalker. I appreciate that, man. Who writes in, one of two. Hey, John, I'm sending you these large tips mainly as a thank you, not just for providing, as you so beautifully put it on Sunday, a safe haven from the whole Collider fallout. I'm not even sure what the Collider fallout is, but for your editorial, The Case for Man of Steel. It brought me to tears. Oh, thank you, man. I'm very proud of that little editorial. Jonathan and I put a lot of effort into that one. So thank you for your kind words. I appreciate that. 2 of 2. I was trying to figure out why I had such a powerful reaction. It was because it's everything I wanted to say kindly to anybody who attacked Zack Snyder's so-called grim stoic Superman vision. So to you, Ann, and all at the John Campea Show, stay safe and thank you. I appreciate that. And what Skywalker's referring to, for those of you who've not seen the video that I put up called The Case for Man of Steel, the most underrated comic book film in history. And I hope you do go and check it out because we're really proud of that video. Was... we all have different interpretations of a movie. We all have different points of view. And we all have different experiences with it, right? But I really wanted to lay out like why I see Superman not as a grim, stoic Superman. I don't think that was what Zack Snyder was portraying at all. I think my interpretation, which is neither right nor wrong, was that I think people were confusing grim circumstances with a grim Superman. And I explain it much better, I think, in the video. But again, I didn't make the video to convince people to like Man of Steel. I just wanted to make the video because you guys have heard me say ad nauseum for so many years that Man of Steel is a masterpiece of the genre and it's the most underrated superhero film of all time. And I just wanted to actually finally put down into like an editorial form of why it means so much to me. Why I liked it, why I love it, and how it struck me as I was watching it. So there was that. And I'm really grateful that it struck a chord with you, Skywalker Zorel. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that very much. And again, thank you for supporting the channel on that level. We really, really appreciate it. And thank you so much, man. I appreciate that. And thank you for giving a plug to my Man of Steel video. I appreciate that. All right. Augie Boyas writes, I called it. I told you, John, I said you were going to hate Justice League Dark Apocalypse. Okay. That's like looking up in the sky and seeing dark clouds and saying, I bet it's going to rain. Yeah, everybody knew it was going to rain. I don't like Marvel or DC straight to home video movies. There was a 95% chance I wasn't going to like it. So congratulations, you called it. But everybody knew there was a very slim chance I was probably going to like Justice League Apocalypse War. There was a very, very small chance of that because generally speaking, like I said, I don't like Marvel or DC straight to home video animated stuff. But anyway, it was all just a bad dream, but I did say there are some good parts. Check out The Last Airbender if you hate it, then I'll send you a $50 tip as an apology. Hey, listen. It's funny because Ann and I were scrolling through one of our streaming services the other day. And we came across Avatar: The Last Airbender. And I said to Ann, I really should watch this at some point. Because not only do a lot of the people who watch the John Campea Show have really enjoyed it. Chris Carr really likes it. And she's an expert on it. And she's been telling me that I should check it out. So I think one of these days when I have some time, I am going to probably check that out. I probably will at some point, man. So thank you for the additional recommendation on that. All right. David Dilks writes, I had read an article that years ago, Fox, Sony, and Disney all had the rights to the Marvel character, the Kingpin. If he had lived, could Michael Clark Duncan's Kingpin have appeared in Fox's X-Men and Fantastic Four, Sony's Spider-Man, and Disney's Iron Man? No, that couldn't have happened because it's much like Wizard of Oz, right? Follow me here. There was an original book. I think it was called Dorothy and the Wonderful Wizard of Oz or something along those lines. There was an original book that Wizard of Oz was based on. The book is public domain. And it's either public domain or the one studio had rights to the book. So what they could do was they could make a movie like they just did recently. Sam Raimi directed that Wizard of Oz movie with James Franco. They made that Wizard of Oz movie with James Franco, and they could make it based on the book. What they could not do is have anything in their Wizard of Oz movie that was in the original Wizard of Oz movie that wasn't in the book. All right. So the original Wizard of Oz movie did a bunch of original things in their movie. This studio doing another Wizard of Oz movie, they could do anything that's in the book, but they could not do anything that original Wizard of Oz movie did that was original to their movie and not in the book. I think the ruby red slippers were one of those things. I might be mistaken, but I think the ruby slippers weren't in the book. I think that was just something that the movie did, and therefore the new Wizard of Oz couldn't do that. And there was a lot of things that they couldn't do because that was created for the movie and not necessarily from the book. In the same way, I believe there was a period of time when different studios had the different rights to use a certain character, but what they could not have done was let's say that Disney wanted to do something with Kingpin and based on something that's in the comic book. Great. But if the Kingpin in a Fox movie, they made something up that the Kingpin in the Fox movie has a big, birthmark on his forehead, then what Disney could not do was replicate that big birthmark on their forehead. And I think they would each have to have very different iterations. Just like X-Men had Quicksilver and Avengers Apocalypse or Avengers Age of Ultron had Quicksilver, they had to be two very different incarnations of the character. So no, I don't believe, barring some completely unprecedented legal agreement, barring that, no, it's not, they couldn't have had Michael Clark Duncan play the character across different things because they would need to have done different iterations. Again, barring some massive legal thing. All right, the Sock writes, you talk about Superman getting jobbed a lot, yes, in the CW. But I think the Z Fighters and Dragon Ball get it worse, particularly Vegeta. They used to put up a pretty good fight. Now you just kind of get surprised if they get their asses beat in 20 seconds instead of 15. Well, I mean, listen, I'm the wrong guy to ask about that. I know who Vegeta is, but I don't really know Dragon Ball Z, and you cannot compare a character like Vegeta to Superman. I'm okay with comic book characters getting jobbed from time to time. Like in the world of wrestling, jobbing is a necessary part of the business, right? You need to have that sometimes. So I have no problem with certain comic book characters jobbing sometimes. What I don't think you do is you do not job the Holy Trinity in the DC universe. You do not job Superman, you do not job Batman, and you do not job Wonder Woman. You don't job those characters. And listen, I'm not saying that, Dragon Ball isn't fantastic. I'm not. But Vegeta is not Superman. Nowhere near that level of the popularity, the understanding, and the importance of who that character is. Nowhere near Superman. So I don't listen. If you want to have Green Arrow job to somebody for a narrative purpose, do it. And I love Green Arrow. You want to have Aquaman job to somebody? Have Aquaman job to somebody. That's okay. If it's for a good narrative purpose, do it. You want to have so-and-so, blah, blah, blah. But you don't job Superman. You don't job Batman. And you don't job Wonder Woman. You don't job the holy trinity of the DC universe. That's just my opinion, of course. But what they do with Vegeta in Dragon Ball, I can't say because I don't watch Dragon Ball Z, so I don't know. But I'll take your word for it on that, Sock. All right, Sock also writes, the creator is in charge of the show, though, as far as I know, and it's not exactly an apples-to-apples comparison. Well, I mean, if the creator is doing it, then I guess that's their prerogative. So you're probably right on that. It's probably not an apples-to-apples thing. It's still a good point to raise, though. All right, Carlos Slade writes, it's sad to see good entertainers pass away from drug abuse. It's sad to see anybody pass away from drug abuse, but yeah. Actors and musicians and all other entertainers, like other employees, should be drug tested before working. What are your thoughts? Be safe. I don't know that I agree with that. But, I mean, there's an argument to be made that, hey, look, we're about to sign you as an actor to be in our movie. And we're investing $8 million in you as a salary, but we're investing $150 million in this movie as a whole. We have a lot at stake here. The stakes are very, very high. The stakes are very, very high. We have to protect that investment. Because if we go into this movie, $150 million movie, and we're paying you $8 million, and then suddenly halfway through, you're not showing up to set because you're either drunk or you're high in your trailer, and it gets out on TMZ, and now our movie takes a big hit, blah, blah, blah. It's going to cost us a lot. So we need to protect our investment. So we're going to ask that you submit to drug tests if we're going to invest this kind of money in you. I'm not comfortable with that, but I get it. So I don't know. It's a good question. Again, my answer is I'm not comfortable with that. But I say that also saying I kind of get it. Because if I was investing $150 million and a lot of that depends on you, like I'm hiring you, and I got $150 million riding on this, I may want to take certain steps to make sure I can feel comfortable with you when you're in a position to completely ruin my $150 million investment. So I don't know. You know what, Carlo? My first reaction was, no, that's bullshit. Don't do that. No. You can't require people to take drug tests. But now, I don't know. Maybe I changed my mind on that. I don't know. It's a great question. Talk amongst yourselves. What do you guys think? All right. Next up, where are we at here? Next up is The Sock, who once again writes, watching Saving Private Ryan for the first time, what a movie. And that beach scene, man, I've seen some gruesome movies, but that scene hit different. I don't think I can watch that again. Listen, Sock, I have talked for a long time about, one of the things about Saving Private Ryan, the very first thing I talked to my friend about when I walked out of that movie for the first time was war sucks. War sucks. There's nothing glorious about war. And, in the words of Yoda, wars make not one great, or whatever the exact wording was. War sucks. And if you don't know that war sucks, watch the first 20 minutes of Saving Private Ryan. It sucks. And I remember walking that I was just so, and you're right, it's difficult to watch, but I remember I was so moved because Spielberg really made you feel the horror, because Spielberg needed us to understand the horror that these men faced. And even as they went on in the movie, we had to know what they just came out of, what they've seen, what they've experienced. And it profoundly impacts the rest of the movie. It is a powerful, powerful scene, Sock. I'm with you. It is difficult to watch, though, because it really does portray it in a very, very horrifying way. I agree. All right. Wakandan Forever writes, T'Challa, you want to see us become just like the people you hate so much. Divide and conquer the land as they did. Killmonger. Nah, I learned from my enemies. Beat them at their own game. T'Challa, you have become then Killmonger. The world took everything away from me, everything I ever loved, but I'm going to make sure we're even. T'Challa, What happens now determines what happens to the rest of us, to the rest of the world. T'Challa, it's our cause. It is for all of us. Black Panther, T'Challa, Wakanda forever. And then he writes, oh, I guess that's supposed to be 3 of 3. All right. Yeah. I mean, what can you say? They're powerful lines from a scene in a movie that are really applicable today. Powerful lines from a powerful movie that is very, very applicable today. I mean, it's true. The warring philosophies. It's an applicable moment, Wakandan. It's an applicable moment. All right. Wakandan also writes, hey, John, the shopping center that houses my local AMC theater got broken into overnight. It was the IMAX theater I would go to and where I saw Black Panther. You know, the show and community mean a lot to me. It just really hurts when it hits you home. I think that's the thing, too. Any major issues that happen in the world, it takes, even if we're very aware of them and we research them and we stay up to date on whatever the major events in the world are, it takes on a whole different perspective for us when we see it with our own eyes. When it happens in our neighborhood or in our adjoining circles, whatever the world event is, regardless of how much we think we know about something, I think when you then see it and touch it, it takes on a new life, and it does. And I empathize, Wakanda man. That's a horrible thing that I don't think anybody should experience. All right, Wakanda also writes, I can't tell anyone what to believe or not believe. Personally, I have faith, and I choose to believe in myself and the goodness of all others as well. The things we have seen lately have been shocking. We all need hope right now. I don't know what to say. And I think, Wakanda, you're speaking something that I think a lot of people are feeling. Also in the film fan community. We have nothing but the ability to hold on to the belief in the inherent goodness of people. As stupid as we are, as ridiculous as we often are, as backwards thinking as we sometimes are, there comes a point where we have to hold on to the belief that somewhere down there, even in the most ridiculous of us, there is that foundational truth that people, I mean, even villains see themselves as the hero. That kind of suggests that the villains want to be heroes. I don't know. Again, it's a complicated matter that goes well beyond the scope of this show. Other than say that I think that's well put. All right. GQ writes, Zack Snyder posted a picture of Darkseid on his Twitter for HBO Max. Do you think he'll be the main villain in Justice League? No. Or will he just appear at the end like Thanos? And do you think we'll see Superman in the black suit? I do think we'll see Superman in the black suit because that was a part of Zack Snyder's plan. So I do believe we're going to see Superman in the black suit. And they shot it. I mean, we know they shot it. So they shot that. I do believe we're going to see that. But Darkseid, if I understand it right, was never supposed to be the main villain of that movie. Steppenwolf was, and it was supposed to be a build-up to Darkseid that would then come in a later movie. So, no, they're not going to change the film. That wasn't Zack Snyder's vision for this film. Steppenwolf is the villain. Whether we're going to see Darkseid just briefly at the end or just briefly in the middle, I'm not sure, but it'll be a very, very short thing with Darkseid. We might have 1 or 2 scenes with him, maybe. But I fully expect we're not going to see much of him because that was going to be planned for another film. So, no, I don't expect... Never know, but I don't expect that Darkseid is going to be the villain. It's essentially going to be the same film, essentially, but just with a lot of other stuff. And the black suit Superman, I think, is one of those things. All right, Eddie Burton writes, should we take a step back and consider the possibility that the Snyder Cut could suck? People forget that Man of Steel was divisive and Batman vs. Superman was panned. I know everyone's excited. There is a chance it could suck, but would it be considered a wasted experiment if it did? I don't think so. Look, I've been telling everybody, like a lot of people writing into me very hopefully and optimistically, writing in saying, hey, John, if the Snyder Cut is awesome and is a huge hit and everybody loves it, could A, B, or C happen? And I always want to caution against that and saying, look, the fact of the matter is, as much as I love, say, Man of Steel, a lot of people hated Man of Steel. As much as I like Batman versus Superman, and I know a number of you guys did too, a lot of people hated it. The notion that suddenly Zack Snyder's vision of the DCEU is suddenly going to win everybody over when it didn't with a movie as good as Man of Steel, and it didn't with Batman versus Superman, which I thought was pretty good. I think it's a long shot. Now, I don't know if I'll like. I mean, I liked everything else Zack Snyder did in the DCEU, so I expect I'll like the Snyder Cut. But I also expect that we're probably going to see the same pattern. Man of Steel was super divisive. A lot of people hated it. I still can't figure out why, but it is, and I accept that. Batman versus Superman was completely divisive. A lot of people hated it. I have very, very little doubt that Snyder Cut is going to be a film that a lot of people don't like, and a lot of people do. So yes, that is a very real possibility. Maybe it'll be great. Maybe it'll be terrible. Maybe some will think it's great and others will think it's terrible. Whatever. I just don't think what we're going to see is that magically all these people who hated Man of Steel and all these people who hated Batman versus Superman are all of a sudden magically going to like a Zack Snyder DCEU film in a Justice League Snyder Cut. So, but even if it sucks, even if for the first time Zack Snyder makes a DCEU movie that I don't like, okay? Let's go there. Let's say that. Okay, even if it sucks, does that make the Snyder Cut a wasted experiment? No, because the inherent genius of doing Snyder Cut on HBO Max is that it is a marketing tool. It draws attention to HBO Max. And even if everybody hates Snyder Cut, let's just go to the worst case scenario. Let's say everybody hates it. Doesn't matter. It still serves its underlying purpose. Warner Brothers isn't investing $60-70 million into this so they can make a movie everybody loves, although they hope everybody does for sure. They're making it because it's a marketing tool for HBO Max. And so what I expect to happen, I expect there's going to be a bunch of us, including me, that like Snyder Cut, because I've liked everything else Zack Snyder has done in the DCEU. But I also expect a lot of people are going to hate it because they've hated the other stuff that Zack Snyder has done. And none of it matters. Because at the end of the day, HBO Max is doing this for HBO Max. So even then, I don't think it's a wasted experiment. I mean, even though I never thought Warner Brothers would put another dollar into Snyder Cut, right up to the day that they announced it, I never thought they would put another dollar in it. But 6 months ago, I was like, they should put Snyder Cut on HBO Max. Because the inherent, but I thought just put it out as is. I think people would just love to see it even if you don't finish it. Just put it out as is. I thought people would love that. But even then, I knew the value that something like a Snyder Cut could represent to something like HBO Max. I never thought they'd spend another dollar on it like they are. But, 6 months ago, Rob and I started saying, take that and put it on HBO Max. Done. You're going to get value out of it that way. So yeah, even if everybody hates it, which I don't expect everybody will, but even if they did, I don't think it's a wasted experiment. All right, guys, I've only got a few more minutes left in me because my throat is starting to go. We've been going almost 2.5 hours. My throat is starting to give out on me. Let me push through a couple more. And guys, listen, I'm going to let you know, any questions that don't get answered here, I'm going to do a companion video before tonight. I'm going to do it in just a couple hours. I'll do a companion video and we will get through all the questions today that got sent in so we can start tomorrow's show with a clean slate. All right. Let me push through with a couple more here. James Argenta writes, a series of questions about the star of The Mandalorian. Well, I'll answer one, James. About the star of The Mandalorian. Over under 68% the child speaks in Mando Season 2. 2, what will be his first words? B, over under we find out its gender. Let's just go with the first one. Will the child speak? Will Baby Yoda speak? I'm going to guess no. Partially because one of the things that's so damn adorable about Baby Yoda, or the child as they refer to it as, is the fact that it doesn't talk. It's just this little baby non-talking thing. That's part of the adorableness of it. And remember, they're saying that little baby thing is like 70 years old. I can't remember. So like the progress of its maturation is very, 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 very slow compared to human years. So my guess is that they will not, just a guess, I don't have any insider information, just guessing. My guess is that no, we will not hear Baby Yoda speak in Mandalorian Season 2. I don't think it would be good for the show. And because of the slower maturation process of that species, I don't think narratively it makes sense that he suddenly goes from to being just able to waddle to now suddenly speak. So I don't think it would, but who knows? Maybe the season 2 finale, they end the season 2 when the final scene of season 2 is Mando, and then everybody goes and I don't know, maybe that'll be it. But other than that, I don't think we're going to hear him speak. All right, GQ writes, who is the better detective, Batman or Sherlock Holmes? Sherlock Holmes, for my money. I mean, because Sherlock Holmes, Batman is like the great detective, but Sherlock Holmes is the greatest detective of all time. Now, of course, Batman will take Sherlock Holmes in a fight. A lot of other things that Batman would be better at. But as a pure detective goes, Sherlock Holmes is the greatest detective of all time. So for my money, as big as I am on Batman, Sherlock Holmes. And I think there was a what if crossover. I'm almost positive I saw a comic book that was a kind of a what if crossover of Batman and Sherlock Holmes working on a case together. I'm pretty sure that exists. I got to see if I can find it now, because now I want to read that. All right, thanks for that, GQ. All right, Murray Reich writes, I think Tenet opening on time is a very slim margin of time, because a city like New York is only starting reopening economy phase 1 on June 8th. That's only for construction and curbside, and theaters are phase 4. Each phase may take up to 2 weeks each. I agree with Rob's assessment that the studio or theater industry owners need both LA and New York City to be fully operational by then. I myself think this movie may be delayed to the end of July unless there are things that have changed since this has been posted. Well, I mean, I think everything you just said makes sense. However, I've been kind of surprised and shocked how quickly things have evolved, even just here in Los Angeles. Like, we went from, being able to go outside to, oh, by the way, restaurants are open now. Like here in LA, the restaurants are open. You can now go and sit. Now, they have social distancing rules and all that kind of stuff. But here in Burbank, California, I can now go out this afternoon and I can go to a restaurant and sit down in a restaurant and have lunch in a restaurant. We got from this point to this point really, really quick in a very rapid succession that I wasn't expecting. It surprised me. Seeing that, it makes me think that, yeah, when Warner Brothers says they're still targeting July 17th, and we just heard Regal Cinemas, we talked about this last week, Regal Cinemas has announced that they are going to be open in July in time for Tenet. And we just saw Cinemark say they're going to start opening their theaters in June. And I've heard through back channels that AMC is also planning to be open. Whether they can stay in business or not, we'll find out. But they are planning on opening back up in time for Tenet as well. And the fact that right now, and it's only June the 3rd right now, like we're still 6 weeks away from Tenet coming out. And I don't know. I certainly don't know. But my guess right now is if I can go out today and go eat in restaurant, I can go into shop, I can go into malls, I can go into a grocery store, I can go and sit down in restaurants. If I can do that today in the LA County, then I've got to believe that when Warner Brothers is saying they're going to launch July 17th and Regal is saying we're going to be open in time for that and Cinemark is saying, I got to believe that in 6 more weeks, there's probably a decent chance. No guarantee, no lock, and I could be way wrong. But my guess right now is if I can go into a restaurant today in Los Angeles, that 6 weeks from now, I'll probably be able to go into a movie theater if I want. So I don't know. It's something we all got. But you know, Murray, the other thing is the situation changes so quickly, and it really goes day to day. And now it's not just a question of, is the virus going to keep them closed? Now it's a question of, will the civil unrest we have keep them closed? I don't think it's going to be an issue 6 weeks from now, but I mean, that's another variable to throw in there, right? So it is an ever evolving, changing situation, not just week to week or day to day, but hour by hour. So it is the $1 billion question right now. We'll have to keep our eyes on that. Thanks for writing that in, Murray. All right. An anonymous viewer writes, this show has gotten me through times like COVID-19. My store has been shut down for 3 months since the lockdown started. I'm losing money. Now that there are riots going around, I'm afraid for my business will be a big target for looters. Please protest peacefully. I think that's a great message, Anonymous. And by the way, we're really, really honored that not just this show, but other, branches of the online film fan community. It's just so great that we get to be here, and that just for a little while we can have that little bit of an escape and talk about something else. It doesn't make our problems go away. It just maybe helps carry us through a bit, so we can go back and face our problems maybe with a little bit of a fresher mind, a little bit of a different perspective. And it's in times like this that, you know what, I'm even speaking in terms of the movie, just the movie world, just in terms of just the movie world. There are some YouTube channels out there that maybe if you ask me on certain days that I have a certain opinion of. But you know what? In times like this, and I say this with all sincerity, I'm really glad those channels are there. I'm really glad those podcasts are there. I'm really glad those blogs are there. I may not like how they do things. I may not like the way they approach certain things, and maybe they don't like that about me and whatever. But you know what? In times like these, I'm grateful that those channels are there and that those outlets are there, because we all need that kind of oasis. And the John Campea Show, as awesome as it clearly is not for everybody. So I like knowing that there are going to be other channels out there who maybe in our movie sphere we're enemies or whatever. But you know what? In times like this, I'm glad those channels are there. And I'm glad that they are providing that oasis for other people who maybe the John Campea Show isn't for them. But they've got a place to go and get an oasis from everything going on in the world too for a little while. And they get to engage in talking about their favorite things, movies and TV shows, maybe in a different way, but I'm glad that it's there. And I think that's something that anybody who's in my position, there's a lot of people in my position, but anybody who's in my position is really, really honored that we get to be here for people like yourself, Anonymous, to come and we can be that for each other as the film fan community, as wildly different as the film fan community can be. It's really good that it can be here for things like that. So I'm glad that this show does that for you, man. I really am. So thanks for sharing that, dude. All right, just a couple more guys here, then we got to wrap up because my throat's about to die. Ryan Lohner writes, my absolute favorite episode of any TV show is Doctor Who's Heaven Sent. As John is so fond of saying, it's an episode that's all direction, and even people who know nothing about the show can get a lot out of it. I'll tell you what, Ryan, do me a favor. Email me at john@thejohncampeashow.com. Remind me of that episode and tell me where I can find it, because I don't watch Doctor Who. But I'll tell you what, with that type of recommendation, I'll go watch that episode and I'll put your thesis to the test there. I'll go check it out. So please send me a link. I would love to get that. And I'll go check out that episode. Thank you for sharing that, man. All right, Cal writes and sends in like a $50 tip. Thank you, Cal, for supporting the channel on that level. Really appreciate it, man. And Cal writes, greetings from Ottawa. I love Ottawa, especially the surrounding area. Big Rideau, Little Rideau Lakes. Love that area. The Kingston area as well. Love that whole area. Wanted to say, although I still hate you guys for taking the hockey team that should have gone to Hamilton and instead they went to Ottawa. Screw you guys. Anyway. Wanted to say, love the Man of Steel video last week. Thank you so much for that. I appreciate that. Which is cool because that is where AMC Man of Steel review introduced me to the OG crew. Thanks, John, for all that you do, as well as Ray, Fact Checker Jonathan, Aaron, of course, Robert. You know, it's so funny to this day how many people continue to this day tell me that they first found me and the content I do from that Man of Steel review did back in 2013. It's crazy to this day how many people say that's where they first got exposed to not just me, but also that the original AMC incarnation at the time. It is nutty. And maybe that's one of the reasons why Man of Steel, but I mean, if you go back and watch that review, you could tell I loved that movie right from the first time I saw it. But maybe the fact that over the years, I've become more and more cognizant of the fact that so many people who do watch this show have watched it as a result of that review. Maybe subconsciously that made me even more attached to Man of Steel. I don't know. I hadn't thought about it. It's a good it's a good thought. All right, guys, listen. For everybody else, from James Bondage, Anonymous, Dan Ketchum, and all the way up and on, we got to take a break right now. I'm going to have to end this episode. We've been going for 2.5 hours. My throat's about to give out. So we're going to stop right now. But a little bit later this afternoon, I'm going to put out a pre-recorded video where I'm going to answer every single one of the remaining questions. We will get to all of them. So look for that to pop up on the channel in just a few hours. Maybe like it's about 11:30 in the morning here in LA, maybe around 4 or 5 o'clock LA time. Look for that video to go up and we'll get through every single one of the questions so that on tomorrow's John Campea Show, we will start fresh batch. And by the way, just to let you guys know, if you want to, you can start sending in questions for the live part of the show tomorrow. Even right now, you can just use that link, streamelements.com/movieblogtv/tip, or you can just click on the link that's in the top of the description of this video, and your question will be one of the first that gets answered tomorrow. All right, guys, what a day. What a day. Listen, and if I can speak raw here for a moment, I'm not going to lie to you. Doing today's show for me, leading into doing today's show, I was a wreck because on one hand, I was so excited about coming back and doing the show again. And yet at the same time, because of all the things going on, I also completely dreaded coming and doing the show today. Completely dreaded it. Super excited and completely dreaded all at the same time. And, you know, it's weird when we find ourselves in situations that we don't ask for. And I think a lot of people in the world are finding themselves in situations that they never asked for. And to a small, minute, and admittedly myopic way, I was as well. You know, today where I get people demanding, oh, geez, guys. I mean, I get people writing me messages demanding that I say A. And if I don't, they're never going to follow me or watch me again. And then I open up the next email and it's somebody saying, if you don't say B instead of A, we're never going to follow or watch you again. And, you know, just being like, I did not ask to be in this position. Thank you so much. But I think a lot of people in the world, and to a much harsher degree than me, are finding themselves in positions they don't want to be a part of. Today, I was put into a position where I kind of had to break my own rule, which was I never want to talk about, unless it's fun and unless it kind of connects to the movie world, I never want to talk about world events. I certainly never want to talk politics because this show is supposed to be a safe haven from what's going on in the real world. This show is meant to be a momentary oasis and reprieve from getting away from the politics that are constantly being bickered about and argued about on social media. And I engage in those too on social media to a degree, but that's not what this show is supposed to be about. And so today I honestly didn't know. And so I fully expect that there are ways that I did today's show that I completely blew it. I haven't sat down to watch. I'm going to have to go down, sit down and watch today's show again, but I'm sure I did. I'm sure there are things that I handled right. I'm sure there are things I completely blew. And because of that, I have been dreading doing today's show. All I want to communicate to you guys is thank you so much for being a film fan community. And thank you for being here and allowing me the privilege of being here. And please forgive me if there are ways that I botched handling a situation that I never asked for and that I never wanted to be in. I'm sure there are ways that I handled it right. I'm sure there are ways I've handled it wrong. And I apologize if I've handled it wrong. Well, no, not if. I know there are ways I've handled this that I've handled it wrong. And if there are, then I've apologized. But thank you for your patience. Thank you for indulgence. And thank you for being film fans. Tomorrow, we get right back to being film fans and talking about the things that we love. We're going to talk about films and movies and all that kind of stuff. Thank you guys for being here. Guys, please remember, do the 4 main things. Stay smart, stay safe, take care of yourselves, and please take care of the people around you. Guys, thank you so much for being here. The John Campea Show will return again tomorrow. And until that time, my friends, thank you so much. My name is John Campea, and until next time, bye-bye.